Gather round, children. Papa's gotta teach stuff. And don't you worry, I'm gonna make it all make sense. We're gonna find out. And we're gonna find out together. All right, let's do it. Welcome back to the Den of Nerds. I am Josh, and we have a fantastic show for you today. The majority of the show is going to be discussing the Thunderbolts opening weekend box office and the future for Marvel Studios. And unfortunately, it's kind of going to be a difficult conversation. Look, I think we all went into the weekend after maybe Friday or Thursday when we watched the movie and we saw a lot of the positive things that happened for the film, including very, very high Rotten Tomato score, very, very high audience score, and pretty decent numbers for the previews on Thursday. But the reality of the numbers are pretty bad, actually. And I want to explain that, and I want to get into the details and break it all down. Now, before we get into all of that, I think it's important to anchor this conversation. I see a lot of turmoil in the chat already and different opinions and people vocalizing different things, and I totally get it. What I will say to you is this. I really liked the Thunderbolts movie, and I had a great time talking about it on Friday with all of you. I had a great time watching it Thursday. And, you know, there was a lot of positivity in our Discord and in the fandom in general over the weekend, Thursday going into Friday, and honestly going into the weekend. And I'm not here to take any of that away, and I don't want to diminish that. But I also think it's important, and I feel a responsibility to be honest about this. And frankly, almost everybody that is talking about how Thunderbolts is doing is being dishonest. And it's not good. And I want to explain what's going on, because some of this stuff, when you dig into it, is actually really bad. Okay? And at the end of the day, what does it mean for us as Marvel fans? I mean, look, I have some funny notes here because, we'll get into the details of all of this. But frankly, you and I are probably here regardless. We're going to be here until the wheels fall off. So we're going to go. It's not like we're not going to go see Fantastic Four. It's not like we're not going to see Doomsday. So the Marvel fandom will still always exist. And a lot of you are hardcore Marvel fans. And Thunderbolts is good. So we can, take heart in that and be excited about it. But I need to explain what's in the data. And what's in the data is scary. It points in a very bad direction. And I want to explain it. And as I always do, I want to kind of parse this out and give you my take on it. And you don't even have to believe me, you know what I mean? But I am going to speak straight facts on this, and we'll get into it. So that's going to be what's going on. Now, I will say, too, a small caveat before we get into any of that. There is a caveat here, and if the film has an incredible second weekend, which technically is possible because of the audience scores and things like that, the narrative could change. This movie is quality. That is the resounding narrative out there from a lot of people. It's quality. Will that matter? We're going to find out, and weekend 2 is the biggest test. So some of what I talk about today will not, it's yet to be determined, and the narrative could change depending on what's going on in weekend 2. But I got to be honest with you, I actually don't think it's going to change. And I want to talk about why, and we're going to explore a lot of ideas. Now, there's also a bit in today's stream where I want to talk about a new Wall Street Journal article that came out, and this is all about Kevin Feige, Marvel Studios, the future, how it went wrong, why it went wrong, and frankly, good article, interesting article, but not a complete picture, not a total complete picture, and unfortunately, they're leaving out some pretty important pieces. I put together a massive video. I think it's like 22 minutes long. And it breaks down what's in the article, some of the new things, but also fills in all of the gaps and tells you all of Marvel's dirty little secrets that they don't want to tell you. And so that video is either going to drop tonight or tomorrow morning, probably tomorrow morning. But I do want to touch on a couple of things that are in the article on today's show as they relate to Thunderbolts, Doomsday, and the future of Marvel. So it's kind of a heavier show today. We're going to get into a lot of like just data, reporting, what's the truth here, what could it mean, analysis and stuff like that. But here's what I'm going to do. At the very end of today's stream, I will talk about a very cool rumor for Doomsday that has to do with Magneto and Doctor Doom. Okay, so we'll start by kind of addressing what's really going on. How bad is it? We'll talk about Kevin Feige, the future, what they're projecting, what does it mean? And then we'll end off and we'll let all of that go, and we'll just be really excited about Magneto versus Doctor Doom. Because again, we're really not talking about Marvel or Star Wars, for that matter, falling apart to the degree that there will be no fans left. That's not really on the table. I think Marvel will always have fans, and Marvel will ebb and flow. It might go through a period of being less popular. It'll go back to a period of being popular. The same is potentially true for Star Wars. But make no mistake, we are in uncharted waters. This is an unprecedented time. And frankly, like, as somebody that covers all of this stuff, I feel like I have a unique perspective on how Disney is fucking this up. They literally took two of their golden geese and they have fucked it up so badly that, I mean, just wait until you hear some of these numbers. This shit is absolutely crazy, really ridiculous. So that's what we're doing for today's show. Hey, I got to do it. I got to be real. I got to talk about what's going on. I got to tell you what's the truth. So we'll be doing that today. As far as show notes are concerned, couple of things going on this week. Number one, no show tomorrow. No live stream in the morning tomorrow. I have a really important meeting. I can't really talk too much about it, but good things are happening. I have a big meeting tomorrow. So no live stream tomorrow. We should have a regularly scheduled week, though. Other than that, I've got that big video cooking. I think Wednesday night we'll play some Marvel Rivals, and we'll talk about the Marvel Rivals tournament because I still want to do that. And other than that, I don't think we have too much going on. There's a lot of stuff that I'm cooking, a lot of stuff I'm working on behind the scenes, but I'm not quite ready to get into it and talk about it and explain it. So that's basically what's going on for the rest of the week. And I think some big news is dropping soon, man. I think so. And we'll be here to break it all down for you and talk about it together. Okay, so let's get into it. And of course, I think it's going to be a good Q&A today. I'm sure a lot of people will have questions, comments, concerns, maybe even rebuttals, or they don't necessarily believe some of the things that I'm saying or that I'm going to talk about it. That's all good. We'll save all of that for Q&A later on, and I think it's going to be really good. So let's just get into it. Let's talk about Thunderbolts, man. So Thunderbolts. Now, here's the thing. Normally, I would pull up a Hollywood Trade article that breaks down the box office and gives you the details, talks about international versus domestic, all of these different things. Guys, I looked at two different articles in my research for today's show, which I have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of notes. I've been doing a lot of research yesterday going into today. Unfortunately, both the trade articles that I read were embarrassingly glazing and I think just really obscuring the truth. And that is so weird. And it's I haven't really seen anything quite like it. I mean, the closest was probably Brave New World, because the trades came out, and not only did they sort of say that the movie cost $195 million, which is literally less than Thunderbolts. That's just wrap your head around that. But not only did they do that, but they came up with that fake ass number of $425 million. That is the break-even point for Captain America, which it fell short of. I think it is at 414 or something like that right now. But this one is even worse. Like the Thunderbolts, the spin that is happening for the Thunderbolts right now is insane. Now, look, I kind of understand it because I think Hollywood is so panicked that they are trying to make it seem like it's not as bad as it is. So I totally understand it. But they're really, really whack. So the movie opened at 76 million domestic, 162 million, I believe. Let me double check this. 162 million. 162 global debut. And it saw, let's just double check here. 76 million. So those are the right numbers. Now, here's the deal with that, man. That makes this movie, in the domestic sense, the 28th lowest opening for a Marvel movie out of 34 movies. The 28th lowest domestic opening out of 34 films. Okay? On top of that, the movie is performing very soft overseas, like weirdly soft overseas. And that's a big concern. But the truth is, if you really want to know how bad this is or what's going on with the Thunderbolts, you have to understand what has happened over the past month. And about a month ago, projections had the movie between, I believe it was $65 to $81 million opening domestic. And those numbers were so low that they put Marvel into a panic mode. And we got all kinds of crazy marketing for this film within this month span. Okay? So the chairs, 5 hours of chairs. The chair thing, as many people pointed out when it was going down, that was actually marketing for Thunderbolts. Because the Thunderbolts characters are all like in the first series of chairs. I think Sam Wilson was in there too. And it was literally to be like, hey, yo, like this is the cast for Doomsday. So you should check this movie out. You should see this movie. So the chairs thing. You had the fan screening, which is like the last time I think they did something like this might have been like Guardians 3, which was another situation coming out of Quantum Mania. Like, dude, this pattern's repeating itself. So like out of Quantum Mania, you have Victoria Alonso fall on her sword. And then you have an early fan screening for Guardians 3. People saw it, shared positive buzz. It looks like with Brave New World, you had Nate Moore fall on his sword before the movie even came out, by the way. And now, yeah, you're having the screening thing. Like, they're trying again to, like, boost the thing because they think it's really good. So, look, none of this marketing worked. I mean, you had an early embargo. You had RDJ coming out there over the weekend to talk about it. You had the Russo brothers coming out to talk about it. The damn movie is actually called New Avengers, and the asterisk was all intentional to build mystery. We all knew it was New Avengers. That was spoiled 2 weeks ago when the fan screening came out. All of this was in response to long box office projections, which had Marvel completely panicked. And what you need to realize is the $76 million number, while on the upper end of those projections, is still within the panic level projections. What that means is that they did not actually increase the box office enough. Now, look, to be completely fair to the film and to Marvel, it is possible this movie could have been on the low end of projections, which would have been even more of a disaster, right? So it would have been, if it's opened in like the 60s, right? That would have been absolutely terrible and a really, really bad sign. So it's possible all the marketing Marvel did and all of the stuff they tried in the last month did actually equate to like $10 million more dollars in domestic gross. The problem is over 1 million less people went out this weekend to see Thunderbolts, or I guess last weekend, to see Thunderbolts, then went out to see Captain America Brave New World. So, like, think about that. Let that really sink in. Over 1 million less individuals went out to see Thunderbolts than saw Captain America Brave New World. So, look, when it was Thursday and Friday, we were like, oh my God, this is really good. We're so back. But what we're so back actually translated to was the same people that have watched all of these movies. We're the same group that's been there the entire time, and we actually watched it less. Like, how about this? Let's do this as an experiment. How many of you in chat saw Thunderbolts multiple times opening weekend? Throw a 1 into the chat. How many of you saw it multiple times over the weekend? That's like a big part of why it did not make the money that it should have. So there are people in here that have, okay? But what I'm trying to tell you is the We're So Back is just the same group of people that's diminishing, and they're seeing the movies less than they had seen the other ones. That's just what's in the data. Now, look, small amount of hope here. Because, again, this movie's good, right? It's quality. Everybody, well, not everybody, but the majority of people agree it's quality. So it has much stronger audience scores. It has much stronger Rotten Tomato scores than Brave New World, some of these other movies. People think it's good, and I will be interested to see if the new Avengers thing works, right? Because they're changing billboards, they're changing all this, that, second, and the third. They're basically setting themselves up to have the lowest grossing Avengers movie of all time, you know, in some ways. But maybe it works. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that would actually push people together. But barring some kind of miracle going into weekend 2, this movie will literally make Eternals money, Quantumania money, and that's on the high end. That's on the high end. The low end is worse than Brave New World. Okay? So just consider, I mean, think about this. Quantumania, right? So bad of a movie, so poorly received, such an incredible drop-off after opening to like 300 million to not get to 5 is like super embarrassing, right? So Quantumania was such a shock to the studio that they started planning to go away from Kang before Majors even fucked up. That is verifiable. Eternals. Eternals is so bad, you ain't getting Eternals 2. Chloe Zhao ain't working with Marvel ever again. You're never seeing, I mean, you might see those characters again at some point, 5 years from now or something. But, like, they're gone, bro. Like, Quantumania, they're gone. Eternals, they're gone. Guys, this is the main cast of Doomsday. You understand? So we're about to set up the next Avengers movies with 2 films that are, again, asterisks on the asterisks. If there's a crazy miracle thing, then we have to take Thunderbolts out of this conversation, but I don't really think that's going to happen. We're talking about 2 movies that are bombs that literally lost money. And they're the movies that set up the main cast of Doomsday. Not a great plan. Not a great plan. Not a great outcome. Let me put it to you a different way. The Minecraft movie is about to outgross the first 2 MCU films that released this year. Combined. Do you realize what's happening? The Minecraft movie is about to outgross 2 Marvel movies combined. So all of these people, like, because there's a lot of people. Here's the thing, okay? I think Disney went to great length to try to make this weekend seem like it was a party, like there was social proof, like the MCU was back. And I know for a fact because I saw some of my tweets go absolutely nuts that were pro Thunderbolts. And I'm telling you right now, that shit was not real. That was not real. That was not organic traffic. That was Disney. I feel very confident about that. So they tried everything they could. I mean, the marketing effort of the last month was incredible. And they spent money and energy this weekend to make it seem like a big party to get people to go out. And it didn't work, guys. Like, it literally did not work. This is one of the lowest openings in the history of the studio. So, I mean, I got to tell you, it's weird for me to look out on the internet and see people discussing this or talking about this, or even within our own Discord, or the people that, because there was a lot of people upset in the chat, maybe still upset or whatever, like, oh, blah, 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 why does this even matter or whatever? It matters because you're about to get a whole different Marvel. Marvel, we spoke at great length about how this movie was fighting for the soul of Marvel Studios. The whole idea, the whole question was, is quality the factor? Last Wednesday, we did a deep dive on Kevin Feige. It's so funny how this stuff works, the serendipity of all of this, right? We went on this deep dive with Kevin Feige, and this was before all of the Disney Plus stuff. And, Kevin's talking and shocking people in the room, explaining the Marvel process, explaining the philosophy of the studio. And Marvel, because it did not have access to the marquee characters, Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, all of those licenses are sold from the studio in the 90s. So when building Marvel Studios, they had to buy licenses back from like obscure studios and stuff, and they couldn't afford any of the marquee characters. So they get 10 characters, right? Your Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, all these characters. And by the way, they made a marketing decision to go with Iron Man first or whatever, right? But the point is, within this entire philosophy, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was predicated on the idea that they did not need a marquee character, and instead quality storytelling and quality filmmaking could carry them through. Okay? And we've been talking for a while about how this movie is like the example of that philosophy being put to the test. In fact, there was a quote. I don't have the exact quote pulled up. I think I accidentally X'd out of it. But the actual director, Jake Schreier, has this really interesting quote that's going around right now. And he said, when I pitched this to Kevin Feige, he told me one main thing: make it different. I think the box office receipts for this weekend will decide if that's something fans want or not. That's his words. Jake Schreier said that. And I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but that's essentially what he said. So, like, this was put up or shut up time. Okay? And this was the time to make that stand. And again, I will asterisk this. I will put a caveat here. It is possible there's a good second weekend. Legs could carry this thing. Frankly, it has started too low for legs to carry it to like Guardians of the Galaxy level success. It just, the math doesn't work out. But with really strong, like I'm talking about miracle type legs, this thing could potentially make a profit and break even. The reported number for this one is 450 million. I don't even think that's real. I think it actually needs to get to 6. By my math, I think it needs to get to 6. But they're saying if it gets to 450, that's break even. Okay? So they're doing that Captain America thing again. And it's possible it does get to 450. In fact, 450 is right in the ballpark. But 6 is not. 6 would be like $100+ million over worldwide projections at this point. And especially because the international numbers are so soft, the likelihood of it doing this is like so low, guys. It's so low. And it has one of the lowest domestic opens of the studio. So it's like hard to, like, where's this money going to come from? You know? And I had said this when I saw the movie, you know, in my review, in the stream. I said, you know, I love Thunderbolts. I think Thunderbolts is a great movie. Maybe one of Marvel's best. Probably close to the top 10. But even I was left unfulfilled. And I tried to articulate this point where I was like, it actually doesn't have to do with the movie. It has to do with the Marvel Universe. It has to do with all the context, you know? And Thunderbolts isn't enough of like an experience or an event that I feel the desire to go see it again. Like, truly, like, you know, and Elisa and I were talking about this. This is actually something that's really interesting because Elisa loves this movie. And after I did a bit of research this morning, you know, I was having another cup of coffee and was just kind of talking with her in passing. And I was like, this is bad. This is kind of getting me down. And she was like, do you still want to go see it again? What that means is when she heard that this party was not the party she thought, even she was like, should we even go see it again? So, like, this is why social proof matters. You know what I mean? Because frankly, like, what the data would suggest right now is that, frankly, quality alone is not going to fix this problem. That they have cried wolf too many times. They have literally fatigued their own audience with like 3 to 4 years of mostly crap. And you can't just turn around and like make one good one. That's not even like, these are not big characters. This is not a big event. It's a fun movie. It feels fucking small. Like, I can't even believe this movie cost $200 million. Like, that's a mistake. It should not. For $200 million, this movie should be much bigger, grander in scale. Right? So the data would suggest that this is not the way out. Okay? Now, ironically, this is another conversation we've been having. And this conversation was like super. After we watched that shit on Wednesday, the Kevin Feige deep dive, it was like really apparent that this is so important to his philosophy. It's so important to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he still strongly feels that he can just make quality with whatever characters and be successful. And there were even moments Thursday and Friday. I remember talking with some of you guys on social media, Twitter, and the Discord, where after what we thought was going to be a successful weekend, a lot of people were like, Josh, maybe you were wrong. Maybe quality is the way out. Maybe spectacle doesn't matter as much, and maybe Kevin was right and you were wrong. And I remember I even said, I could be wrong. And if this movie had cracked 100 million domestic, if we were talking about 200 plus worldwide or something like that, I might have even come out today and told you, I think I was wrong, and I think there's a future for Marvel just focusing on quality regardless of how popular the characters are. But this data, these numbers do not support that conclusion. We technically do not know until the second weekend. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say the second weekend, maybe slightly better than Brave New World. But you're not really looking at a hit. You might not even be looking at a profitable movie. So what does that mean? Why is this happening? Well, look, there's a really crazy article out in the Wall Street Journal right now. Okay? Big old article, actually. And it was a fascinating read. I thought it was good reporting. It's not the total picture, but it's a damn good look behind the curtain at what was going on with Kevin Feige over the past couple of years. It's wild, guys. I have a 22-minute video that's breaking it all down and filling in the gaps, telling you about the stuff they don't want to talk about. Because there's no mention of the pandemic. There's no mention of wanting to do Secret Wars in 2024. There's no mention of identity politics. There's no mention of Jonathan Majors' drama. This article is designed for Wall Street people, and it's softball in a way that's like, it's actually ultimately a puff piece for Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios that's aimed at Wall Street people. It's like, hey, Wall Street people, the truth is Kevin's the best. He was spread too thin. That was the main problem. Disney Plus sucks. Kevin is fixing everything. We have Kevin for 10 more years with X-Men. You should invest. Like, essentially, right? But the full picture of it's so incomplete that it's almost like embarrassing if you know the actual story. So I have a 22-minute video that's coming out. I explain in great detail everything that happened. Like Marvel Studios literally putting a pandemic into Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Then the actual pandemic happens and they strip it out, remake the show, and it's terrible. Which, by the way, small side note here. Rotten Tomatoes score, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 6, 71%, which at the time was the lowest rated episode of all of Marvel television, and it was the lowest rated Marvel thing in years. That was actually the moment that even the critics started to kind of see, wow, this is not actually good television. What happened here, right? Anyway, the point is, there's a lot of shit that went wrong, and I detail it in that whole story. But the main thing, like the thing that I think this data is showing us here, because I don't even know how relevant it is as far as like, how do we get here? Because we're here and it sucks and it's really bad. So I don't know, like, look, I made that big video. Obviously, I felt that I needed to tell the full story. But for the sake of this conversation, it's more important to think about one key thing. Thunderbolts is presumably telling us that quality alone is not going to get them out of this situation. And the ultimate thing that I think Kevin is wrong about is that he thinks it's just the quality of the films and the quality of the stories that will carry them through. Now, look, frankly, I even question how much he truly believes that, because in the Wall Street Journal article, it mentions that the plan in 2023, which they have a creative retreat, the Parliament, which, dude, I'm ADD, I'm all over the place on this shit, but like, Parliament just starts popping up a lot recently, huh? Nobody, about 2 months ago, nobody even talked about Parliament. A lot of people, even my sources, didn't know Parliament was still around. Some VFX guy replaces Nate Moore on Parliament. Charles Murphy covers it, but I guess a lot of people miss it. Parliament all over this article in the Wall Street Journal, which I find kind of interesting. But the point is, in 2023, they have a retreat with Parliament, their brain trust. And it was a somber one. They all looked around and they were like, we're kind of fucking cooked, man. And it was at this point, and by the way, this is probably where Tatiana Maslany, or no, not Tatiana Maslany, Tatiana Siegel gets all those scoops in the big spread that came out in 2023 talking about the creative overhaul of Daredevil, the returning of the Avengers, pivoting into Doctor Doom. That's probably where she got a lot of this info from. So anyway, at the retreat in 2023, they decide that their save will be the Avengers movie. And that if they get the next two Avengers movies to pop and they continue the strength of that franchise, it will save and recalibrate the studio. So they put all their apples into the baskets of those two films, bring the Russos back, sign Downey to an absurd contract. And they go for it in 2023. That was the whole plan. So my point is, like, does Kevin even really believe that story's the way out? Because he's throwing a lot of spectacle into the Avengers movies, which it feels like he knows is really what matters, right? So what does this mean, right? So what's going on? Well, look, here's what I think is happening. Kevin is wrong about the story thing. And the reason he's wrong is because the audience has changed. Kevin hasn't changed. The audience has changed. And part of why the audience changed, or I guess how the audience changed, is his fault. Because sure, it might have been Disney's idea to do the Disney Plus shows. He was probably stretched way too thin. The pandemic's a big part of this as well. But ultimately, he was still president of the studio. So all of that shit is still his fault. And all of the fatigue that was created over the last couple of years, that's actually why his old shtick will not work. He fucked it up for himself. On top of that, I think audiences in general have changed, always do change, and just that's the story of it all. In modern times, right now, audiences are changing so rapidly. It's so dynamic. It's so interesting. And the pandemic and lockdown accelerated a lot of these changes, accelerated consumer behavior, accelerated a pivot away from mainstream into counter culture, counter narrative, counter content, non-mainstream, whatever you want to call it. So basically, dude, the audience went through 10 years of change in a 3-year period. Marvel's still trying to go by their old playbook. It simply will not work. What moves audiences these days? Well, let's look at the biggest movies over the past couple of years. What do they all have in common? What is Minecraft doing? What did Barbie do? What did Top Gun Maverick do? What did Super Mario Bros. Do? What did these movies do that Marvel did not? It's create spectacle and experience. People went to see Chicken Jockey and go nuts in a theater because it was an experience. It broke into the zeitgeist. People went to see Barbenheimer, Oppenheimer, all that shit because it broke through as an experience. It was more than a movie. More than a movie. I think that's the same thing with Barbie. I think that's the same thing with Super Mario Bros. You know, for Nintendo fans or even just nerds that had some connection to Nintendo, the Super Mario movie, which total side note, ADD moment. Liam calls him Mamma Mia, which I think is adorable. He doesn't call him Mario. He just calls him Mamma Mia. Anyway, the Mamma Mia movie, to a lot of Nintendo people or people that were just aware of Nintendo, was sort of ceremonial. Like, it had meaning beyond just going to the movies. It was like, and this is actually a key point, it was like seeing for the first time the thing you love adapted properly. That's actually like meaningful. That is actually what drove a lot of interest in Marvel in early days. I'm talking about the MCU specifically. The MCU carved out a lane for itself in such a way that fans were excited to see the new characters brought into that, even characters that had been seen in other versions of Marvel movies. We were all like, I can't wait to see the MCU version of that. And at the time, that was enough of a value proposition. It was enough of an exciting event-creating thing that drove a lot of the interest for it. But that doesn't work anymore. Partially because of the fatigue, but also I think partially because Marvel has piecemealed a lot of stuff out. I mean, look, a lot of people's anger with Multiverse of Madness was that it didn't go far enough. And although it does some crazy stuff, it's really relegated to one scene. It's one cameo scene shot in a warehouse. It's just not good enough, dude. And that's like what a lot of people were saying. And even Thunderbolts. I think about Thunderbolts, right? And, dude, the ending's cool. Sentry's cool. But Sentry doesn't do shit in this movie, dude. There's like 2 minutes of Sentry centering, and then he doesn't really do anything. Okay? Bucky has like one awesome action sequence, which was really cool. But not enough to like create an epic experience, a moment that you won't forget. It's not like it used to be. And I think they are piecemealing stuff out. I think that they pulled a lot of stuff out that could have been cool because they couldn't figure out the scheduling because of the volume that they were creating. Like, you know, famously, Doc Strange gets pulled out of WandaVision. And that has to do with the pandemic. That has to do with editing and scheduling. And like, they're just like, you know what? Leave the Nexus scenes in there, but take Doc Strange out. Well, that means it's pointless. That means it doesn't mean anything. So it's not just taking something out. It's actually hurting it more than I think they realized. So, man, it's tough because the Wall Street Journal article is meant to let fans know, and really investors know, that, look, the Disney Plus stuff, that was bad. That was not Kevin Feige's idea, and he was just trying to play along, and it was terrible, and he was stretched so thin. The article says staffers resorted to chasing him down the hallway to get feedback. That's how stretched this man was. The article mentions that certain people would have weeks of time where they didn't hear from Kevin, and then they'd hear from Kevin, and he would basically say, everything you've been working on for the past 2 weeks, irrelevant, stop, work on this. Okay? So the article goes to great lengths to explain just how bad it got, just how little time Kevin had. And we heard some of this stuff, right? Remember we heard that he had a single note for She-Hulk? One note. The greatest producer of all time had a single note for the She-Hulk show? One note? So, yes, that was bad, and it obviously made a lot of things worse for Marvel Studios, right? But here's the problem. This Wall Street Journal article is trying to say that now Kevin has all the time. Now he's going to focus on all these projects. And look, there's some truth to that, and we're going to talk about that because there is some hope here. But while the article is trying to talk about Doomsday, Secret Wars, and a 10-year X-Men plan, Ironheart, Wonder Man, Eyes of Wakanda, Marvel Zombies, and probably another one that I'm missing are still all coming out for the rest of the year. So, like, what do you want me to do, Marvel? Like, you're literally sitting here telling me Disney Plus was a failure, Kevin has not been there, and everything's better now. Oh, by the way, you still have 4 more projects to swallow before you get the next dope one. I mean, Fantastic Four is going to be dope, but do you know what I mean? Like, that's ridiculous. You can't, in the middle of a year where you're dropping 9 fucking projects, try to tell us that you know this was the problem and it's going to be different. How does that make any sense? You can't do that. That's mixed messaging. So, sure, Doomsday, the Avengers franchise. I mean, look, they're basically betting, guys. They're basically betting that it won't matter. They're betting that Doomsday will be so good, so much spectacle, so much crazy shit, that all this stuff will be erased. It won't matter as much, and then we'll just get on board with that. And the thing is, they might be right. They might be right. That could be true. But oh my God, Doomsday is maybe the most make or break thing they've ever done. And I truly think if that movie is goobly glob, because it's going to pop, people will see it, it will do well. But if it's not like good, if it doesn't like actually satisfy the fan base, because, you know, it's a conversation of quality, but it's really a conversation of like payoffs, fan experiences. Do the fans love the spectacle? Does it feel like it sets up a crazy scenario for Secret Wars? Like, it's all on the line with that movie. And damn, it probably doesn't help that the main cast of Avengers from 616 is mostly from 2 movies that literally are bombing. And to me, why are you even doing this? Like, you realize you fucked up. You realize you weren't around, and yet you're still committed to trying to make this work. It's like, I think this is another thing that Kevin is getting wrong. He should have canceled projects. This cast should not be the Avengers for Doomsday. They shouldn't be. Like, and I'm just talking in terms of strict business here. How the fuck are we supposed to set up, support, and hype up a film where the main cast is Brave New Flop and the Thunder Cunts? Like, seriously, what? How did they come to that conclusion? And are you happy with yourselves now? Because it was stupid. Instead, you literally should have had either Doctor Doom. Like, here's an interesting idea. Oh man, Brave New World. We just don't know. It's not going well. Well, maybe Doctor Doom shows up in the middle of the movie and literally kills Sam Wilson. Like, come on, man. Like, how is it? Like, oh no, Sam Wilson, Captain America, he's gone. Like, no, nobody cares. You're the one that cares, and it's cringe. It's cringe. Should have canceled a bunch more movies. Should have went in a completely different direction. You've got a 70+ ensemble film where you're really going to spend bandwidth, time, money, and energy putting in all of these stupid, obscure characters that fucked up your whole cinematic universe, but they got to get a little shine in Doomsday. What the fuck? No! Fuck those characters, man! No! And so, look, I mean, look, I think we're at a place, like, and come on, man, like, I love Kevin Feige. I think he's great, and I'm hoping that he's able to turn this around. But, like, are you kidding me? Oh, it's not his fault. It was Disney. It was Disney Plus. I was unavailable, and it's all better now. By the way, get ready for Ironheart, which wrapped 2 years ago. Wonder Man, which was conceived at a time when they thought they could get away with everything. They could shit out big old turds, put the Marvel Studios logo on it, and we'd all eat it up. It doesn't track. It doesn't make sense. This is no way to build hype. This is no way to build a fandom. And the normies have completely caught on to the game, and they do not give a fuck. They don't. So we'll see, man. I think if here's what I'm gonna. Let me say it to you, just crystal fucking clear. Okay, let me be crystal fucking clear. Is this thing on? Do you hear me? Listen to what I'm about to say. Listen and listen well. If Doomsday is a shitty movie because Kevin needed all his stupid, shitty Phase 4 characters to have some shine, if that actually ends up being the reason that Doomsday sucks, I'm going to rip my hair out. That is a full circle fuck up, my friend. Signed, sealed, and delivered. That cannot be what happens. If that happens, it's Jover. We are actually cooked at that point. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm starting to be a little concerned here. I'm starting to be a little concerned. To put a exclamation point on it, to just summarize what I'm really trying to say here is you need to stop piecemealing stuff out. You need to stop hanging on to characters and actors that I'm sure you care about, but nobody else does. You need to fully own that you fucked up, and you should have canceled projects. Probably not going to do that. Instead, you will shadow drop Ironheart. Like, God, it's so frustrating because, like, is that really like you being good for diverse actors, diverse teams? Is this really positive? You're going to shadow drop this shit and act like it's not garbage. Okay. So quality's not the way out of this. It's experience and it's spectacle. And if Kevin can't see that, if he can't like appreciate that, and if he can't execute on it, it is time for somebody else. Like, it is time for somebody else to step in and have a better understanding of what the overall audience will engage with. It is as simple as that. And I'm frankly concerned. And Thunderbolts was really fun and really good. And I wish that this movie had happened sooner, before Marvel fatigued its own audience. And, you know, I brought this point up before. But, like, brother, when they're putting Thanos lines into Quantumania, when they're putting Avengers footage into the promo for the Marvels and they're just bombing, like, how do you not realize you are crying wolf and people are over it? So, like, you can't have it both ways. You can't, like, lean into marketing of, like, big, popular, crazy characters, but then also try to tell us that it's quality and any story could carry this thing through. That's just simply not what it is. So you need to adapt to where the audience is at. You need to deliver spectacle, experience. And, look, the Wall Street Journal article ends with speaking about how the Avengers movies are the ticket and that Kevin Feige has a 10-year plan with the X-Men. Okay? And that is a good bet. And as I've said before, I think that that could actually work. And if Doomsday and Secret Wars absolutely pop the fuck off and the X-Men franchise starts strong, Marvel could be completely back to where they once were. But from where we're at right now, given everything we know about how they're doing this, oh my God, like this should be shocking. This should be a wake-up call. You know, we talked about how this movie is deciding the future of Marvel. And unless something crazy happens in weekend 2, they must let go of this idea that they could take C and D level characters and make them successful. Maybe it's because of the things you did to change the audience. Maybe it's the fatigue you put on everybody. But the facts are the facts, brother. It ain't working. So you need to adjust. Go into the huddle. Go into the locker room at halftime. Make some goddamn adjustments and get this shit back on track, because Thunderbolts is embarrassing. Not the movie. The quality is great. The performance, the box office is embarrassing. Daredevil Born Again's numbers are embarrassing. Brave New World's numbers are embarrassing. Marvel, right now, is embarrassing. So, with all of that said, let's try to. Oh my God, I had a whole more page of talking shit, but I think I've done enough. Let's let's pivot into something more positive. Okay? let's pivot into something more positive here. There is a rumor for this Doomsday movie where all of the marbles are on the line. there's a cool rumor coming out for this Doomsday thing. Okay. And, you know, a little bit of self-awareness. I could spend, what have we done? 50 minutes? I could spend 50 straight minutes shitting on Marvel, complaining about Kevin Feige in the MCU. And then I could turn around and still get excited about Magneto versus Doctor Doom. So I'm just as bad as they are. I'm a hypocrite. I'm a toxic fan. I'm a shill. I'm a hater. I'm all the things, okay? So let me explain what's going on, because this is kind of cool. And I'm still seeing all these fucking movies. We're talking about how Marvel's basically ruining how the normies used to access stuff. I'm going to be there day one. You're going to be there day one, right? It would be cooler if it was all a complete party and we felt like we were part of something big again. And I hope that it can be. But regardless, we're going to be there. And one of the reasons that I'm going to be there is because I love Doctor Doom. Now, it came out recently, and this came out from My Time to Shine Hello, that Magneto and Doctor Doom are filming a fight right now. There's a fight happening, a conflict, a battle between Doctor Doom and Magneto. It's being filmed right now. Which, by the way, do you remember that leaked set photo of Wong and, or no, it was James Marsden and Magneto? There have been a lot of set photos made recently, and most of them have been debunked. And the reason that get debunked is because these little chronic online motherfuckers that make this shit in AI, they all want to tell you they did it. So they usually make a video or a post about, here's how I tracked the whole internet, you know? But that never happened for that photo. And when that photo was being debunked, there was like a lot of people that were bringing up the fact that Ian McKellen was currently at some other event. But like, do you know how little Ian McKellen is actually going to do on set? Like, I don't know if you guys know how this is done, but he will have a stand-in and stunt doubles, maybe multiple stunt doubles. So I kind of think that image was actually stand-ins, and they've already filmed a lot of this. They'll do like close-up dialogue and all that sort of stuff with him. But the point is, we've been talking a lot about this set in front of what I believe is the X Mansion. And Unboxed HD has had drone footage and done all this drone footage stuff of what this set is. One of the more recent developments for it is that pieces of a plane have been scattered and broken apart, and they're in these big craters. And, you know, we had the Russo brothers show us the Doctor Doom chair on set, and Alex Perez had pointed out that that was an interior for the X Mansion. And the question was, what is Doctor Doom doing filming the first couple of days of Doomsday at the X Mansion location? Well, if you start to pull all of this together, man, it's actually pretty crazy. I think that the plane and all the debris and that thing being broken apart and all of that stuff, I think that is probably from Magneto. And it was probably either Doctor Doom or Hydra Cap or somebody else that like attacks the X Mansion. And I think Magneto is going to do, speaking of spectacle and something that fans will jump out of their seats for, I think Magneto is going to pop off in Doomsday. He's going to destroy a whole plane in front of the X Mansion, and then he is going to have an epic fight with Doctor Doom. And Doctor Doom versus Magneto, like, that's undeniably cool. Now, there's a big part of me that's like, why didn't we get more shit like that throughout, like, the past 4 to 5 years? But also, I am excited that it's finally happening and that we're going to get stuff like that. It is a really cool rumor, man. And it's something that I think a lot of fans are excited about and will be happy to see. And so I bring this up for 2 reasons. Number one, I wanted to finish off on a positive note. But I also wanted to sort of tie this back into the conversation we just had. More stuff like this, dude. Like, I'm sorry, it doesn't seem to matter how well depicted the mental health of your characters were in Thunderbolts. People don't really seem to care. But Magneto versus Doctor Doom? Brother, that's really good for my mental health. Do you see what I mean? Like, come on! What are we doing here? More of that, less of this bullshit, and I think we're going to be okay. And who knows? Maybe they have enough of this. Maybe they have enough spectacle to carry us through with Avengers Doomsday. So there you have it. There's that's the show. That's the show, and I'm out of here. No Q&A, no super chats. Thanks for all the money. I'm out. No, I'm just kidding. I'll go over the super chat. I know that was probably harsh. Okay? Now, it's harsh for two reasons. Number one, because, like, I'm really fucking mad. And it is really bad. But also, number two, like, you know, when you're flowing and you're ranting and you're kind of caught in a moment, like, I don't want people to think that, like, I walk around constantly angry about Marvel and that I have no hope for the future. No, that's not what's happening. The truth is, I woke up really early and did research, and the research put me in a really fucking bad mood because it's not good, dude. Shit isn't good. I'm actually trying to help. I know that seems crazy, and I think that if any of this made its way to Kevin Feige, the only thing I would say is nobody around you is probably going to tell you this as raw as I am. I think I have a point. That's it. The rest is on you. That's it. All right, let's get into the Q&A, man. Let's start here. Joshua says, most of the feedback is positive and the RT scores are still good. Hopefully word of mouth helps the second weekend. I think it'll be fine. Define fine, though, right? Because, like, all of that's true. But that was all stuff that should have affected the first weekend. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, hey, I guess what I have to say is, like, this rings of a Morbius kind of an idea here. And maybe we could tell Marvel, like, re-release the movie. We were all busy that weekend. You know what I mean? Like, how you'd have to explain, why did none of that affect the first weekend and you expect it'll affect the second weekend? I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just not, there's not actual evidence to suggest that that's going to happen. JJ Lamont says, I believe the movie will be okay and make just enough money. They need to do this consistently to win more people back. Oh man. Yeah. So I just kind of disagree. I don't know that it is okay. I don't know that it'll make just enough money. And I don't know that doing this, meaning making a more artistically less popular movie, I don't know that that is how you win people back. I mean, look, maybe there's some truth to that. Sometimes for a YouTuber, right? Like, sometimes you can screw up as a YouTuber and your audience gets really mad, or like people that like your channel turn away or something, right? One of the only ways you can overcome that is by just making consistently good content again. And for a while, it won't show up in the numbers. Like, you won't see it right away, but over time, like, you'll win a couple people back, and over time people are like, okay, this dude or this gal is back to making good content, so I'm back to watching. The problem with Marvel, and I think the problem with thinking that that is what it takes, is like, you're not acknowledging how much damage has been done. And us Marvel heads might not be able to fully see this, because to us, we're like, well, we watch all this stuff and this one's definitely better. I had a better time. The community had a better time. More of this. But you're also not even the person that's the problem. You watched all of it. You're going to keep watching it. You're not the problem. So, like, you're taking what feels good in the bubble and diagnosing that for, like, the audience at large. It's just not fair. John Cross with the 10 spot says, RDJ shaved his head. Last time he did that was to play multiple characters. Do you think this proves the reports that he'll make multiple characters in Avengers? Maybe. Look, I don't need it to be proven because I believe the insiders, right? Is it a maybe mark in the column of proof? Sure. I can see where you're at with that. King of Judah says, I spent $100 for me, my lady, and friends to go see Thunderbolts because I heard it was the greatest movie of all time. So boring. Dang, I actually really liked the movie. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry that happened. And I don't know. I mean, if people have that experience, if a lot of people have the experience you had, then the word of mouth will not be as strong as they think, right? So, ooh, that's kind of scary. Darth Wren says, my mom and I went to see Thunderbolts. She hasn't seen a Marvel movie since Thor when I was a kid. Now 22 and 52. We loved it and laughed. That is awesome. I'm glad you guys liked it. Justice Clemente says with an 80, or I guess what would be a $50 super chat? That's very generous. Thank you. Says, do you reckon Marvel are aware the recent box office of Thunderbolts has more to do with the audience's lack of interest in the MCU rather than the movie itself? And do you fear this might affect the projects of this quality being made in the future? Yeah, of course. Of course. That's why when I was saying all last week and maybe even the week before, when I kept saying this movie decides the future of Marvel, that's what I mean. Deadpool and Wolverine is spectacle over substance. Thunderbolts is substance over spectacle. And my thought here was the audience is about to decide, and Jake Schreier, rather, has kind of talked about this. The audience is going to decide if that's actually what they want or not. And what I would tell you is the audience is speaking. And like these things are not separate, right? So you can't say audience's lack of MCU is separate from this movie being substance over style. They're actually the same thing, meaning whose fault is it? The audience or Marvel? Think about it that way. If the audience is fatigued, that's still Marvel's fault. And then if Marvel makes a movie that won't satisfy the fatigued audience, whose fault is it? And also, it's not like they had to make it and or. They could have made a very high quality movie that was spectacle. That seems like the path forward. You know what I mean? So, I think Marvel, if they're being, because look, there are some wins here. It is obvious that this is a better quality movie, and yes, that is good. And it's kind of like, you know, we talk about Agatha, and like we don't really need more Agatha, but dude, that team was good. What's her name? I forget the lady that it's very similar to Jake Schreier actually. The lady that did that. She's great. She should stick around. She should do something with like bigger characters. Like imagine if Agatha had Wanda and Doctor Strange in it. Like that's what I mean. It's like it doesn't actually have to be both, and you're thinking about it the wrong way. It's really just one lacking. Jack Schaefer. Yeah, she's great. It's really just one lacking, and it's spectacle and experience. It's like, where's the audience at? Well, they're well past a Thunderbolts movie of B and C level characters that has Sentry in it for a couple minutes. Like that's just as obvious. If that's not the takeaway, then I don't know what we're doing here, right? So that's a really long-winded answer to your question. I hope it made sense. Joshua says no stream tomorrow. No, I know. I'm sorry, man. But it's good. I have something going on tomorrow that's going to be end up being very positive. Rossi with a. What is that, a crying sticker or something like that? Interesting. I am Donovan73 says, first movie I've liked from Marvel in 6 years. A little momentum in 6 years for me. Oh, man. I'm not trying to, I don't want to be rude here. I'm going to say it this way. It's going to sound fucked up, man. Marvel should not worry about you. Like, that sounds fucked up, but that's what it is. Marvel should not worry about you. Like, you saw all of them. It's the first one you've liked in 6 years, and you consider the little momentum to be positive. Meaning, brother, they got your money. Like, you're not the problem. With all due respect, you're not the problem, and Marvel should not worry about you. Ash Chase says with a 10 spot, hi Josh, I always thought this, but do you think if Marvel took longer break after Endgame instead of going straight into Phase 4, it might have yes, Ash, yes. I think if they had spent more time planning, it could not have hurt. I appreciate you. Thank you. Joshua says, I watched T-Bolts 3 times and planning to watch it again. Well, why aren't you bringing your friends? You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? Not good enough. Kyber Sit says with a 5-spot, Josh, are the Thunderbolts your new Avengers or your B-Vengers? Not my Avengers. For you, Sam Wilson technically copyrighted the new Avengers. Yeah. Man, imagine your new Civil War is between 2 movies that flopped. You know what I mean? Like, dude, the tension between the Avengers. You know what I mean? Like, dude, come on, man. What are we talking about here? Are they my new Avengers? Sure. I like the characters. I like the movie. I mean, shit. At least I'll have arm room in the theater, you know? Javier Mendez says with a 10-spot, Andor sucks so bad, this will be the first Star Wars project I won't finish, and especially after Acolyte. Like Obi-Wan said, I cannot watch anymore. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything to say about Andor. You know what I mean? I'm sorry that it took you this long to realize that it's terrible. Zach says with a 5-spot, dude, by the way, like, I actually didn't want to get this toxic today. I am sorry, guys. I should be doing better. Let's try. Let's start right here with Zach. Happy Monday, everyone. I got to watch this after work. But what's bad? I thought Thunderbolts was great. Much love, everyone. Oh, my fucking God, Zach. Come on, man. Come on. Appreciate you. Much love, man. But what do you mean? What's bad? I thought Thunderbolts was great. It is great. And nobody seems to give a shit. That's what's bad, Zach. That's what's bad. Eric Myers says, 2 years nerd venging. Thunderbolts is a solid 8.25, and it's enough for me to see FF. Most normies I talked to had no idea this movie was coming out. That's awesome. Appreciate the support. I actually even rated a little higher than you. And it's enough for me to see Fantastic Four 2. Let's go, baby. Meet Normus says, Thunderbolts was better than Brave New World, but the damage has been done. I'll see it again. I'm definitely going to see F4, but Marvel needs a makeover. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Thunderbolts is way better than Brave New World. Thunderbolts is a great movie. I really like it. I want to see it again in theaters. I wish it was doing better. It's probably not the full movie's fault, right? That it's not doing well. But, like, look, who cares? It's plainly not doing well. Like, the strategy of the studio, like, the studio cannot approach this as though, like, they cannot take these little wins and be like, well, technically it is a fresh tomato. You know what I mean? Like, brother, what are we talking about here? Marvel was the crown jewel of pop culture entertainment. You know what I mean? So, like, unfortunately, the story here is it's not so much about Thunderbolts. It's more that, like, Marvel Studios made the best movie they've made in years, and it didn't matter. That's the story. And the analysis should be, why didn't it matter? I'm offering a couple of reasons why. And you know, all of this retracing the steps or looking back into the past and all that, like, I don't even know how useful that is. It's just obvious this was not exciting enough, interesting enough, or enough of a spectacle or an event for people to go see it. Is that not obvious? That's the takeaway. John's Honest Take, thanks for coming back to the Nerd Vengers. John Cross says, why would reporting stop people from seeing the movie again? If you like it, go see it. It ain't that deep. It's because of social proof, John. It's the same reason if you go into a restaurant and nobody's in the restaurant, it feels weird and you don't want to eat there. You see, we evolved as social creatures. And so social proof is, like, really important to the psyche. That's why. Tim O'Brien says with a $20 holla, that's very generous, says, I really liked Thunderbolts, honestly. It had heart, great action, and was funny, and the mental health retrospective was strangely therapeutic to me because I've been in a mental fog of late. Hopefully, it'll have legs. Nerd Ventures for life. So here's the thing, man. I totally understand what you're saying. I totally agree with it. Are you going to go see it a bunch? Like, that would be my question, because this is, you know, I'm going to be real with you guys. This is ringing a little bit like chicks that say height doesn't matter. It's a nice thing to say. Have you seen the data, though? Like, there's all this, like, energy out there, or there's, like, a lot of people saying, oh, man, this movie's great and incredible, and it will have legs. Is that real? Or is that just, like, a nice thing to say? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you look, like, the data tells a different story than, like, the veneer. John Cross says with a $5 holla, Thunderbolts is in the same position as Superman. It doesn't need to make all the money. It needs to be good, which it is, and that's what matters at this point. Yep, disagree. Philip Hatch says, why do you think guys like Drinker and Nerderotic aren't high on Thunderbolts? I get that they're B and C level characters, but the movie is peak MCU. I mean, I don't know, brother. Like, come on, man. What am I supposed to do? Like, look at the intention and heart and brain. I don't know. I don't even watch their content. I didn't even know they weren't high on it until you told me. Maybe they just didn't like it. Super Sly 75, that's a cool name, says Kev should have been fired 3 years ago. No. It's not about being fired. It's about actually, like, getting your groove back. I think we need to at least let Doomsday and Secret Wars play out. And if that shit's bad, yeah, it might be time to move on. The current Avengers will be destroyed by the X-Men. Yeah, I totally agree. Except for Doctor Doom, right? If Doctor Doom joins the Avengers, it's over. And that might be what's going on. John Cross says, are there any Disney Plus shows after Mando 2 with good numbers? Any Disney Plus shows in general after Mando 2 with good numbers? That's a good question. I mean, the obvious answer is Bluey, which is like, does that even count? I will tell you a couple of things that were interesting in the data. I don't know that I would say any of them have good numbers, right? But there were a couple of things that were really interesting. So I think the finale of Loki season 2 made overall, it might have even made top 5 overall on Nielsen overall. Like, that's pretty wild. So the finale of Loki, which is wild because that second season had about a 30% reduced viewership compared to season 1, but it ended up popping off even bigger than the first season did. So that's kind of an interesting one. Let's see here. There are a couple other examples. I'd have to think about them. Oh, Agatha all along dips in and out of the overall charts on Nielsen. And I think that episode 7 charted actually pretty strongly. So that was pretty big. A lot of people dog on Ahsoka, but if you look at Ahsoka's numbers, they were crazy. Like, Ahsoka's numbers are so much better than almost any other Disney Plus show's numbers. Ahsoka had very strong viewership comparatively. I don't know if I would say it had, like, crazy viewership, but as far as I understand it, it was doing, like, double, triple what most of the shows are doing right now. I want to say there was one other example, but I can't think of what it is. Yeah. How do you lose viewerships but pop off bigger than the first season? Oh, man, like, are you actually asking me that? Do you not understand? So what that would indicate is that fewer people checked out the premiere, but by the time it got to a really good episode that was, like, really crazy, the God Loki one, it forced a whole bunch of people to, A, go check out that episode, but B, catch up on the season. So it's like people were on the fence, or maybe they were going to check out the show later on. They hear about this really big, crazy thing with Loki becoming a god, and they all go to check it out. That shows the boost in the numbers. That's how that works. Joshua Kemble Bluegrass says, it's really too bad because I love these characters now. Yeah, and, like, look, let me give you one more little piece of positivity here, okay? And because there's some cope here. There's some hope, and there's some cope. The post-credit scene is really good. And that is directed by the Russos. So it seems like the Russos, and it's only like 3 minutes, but it seems like the Russos still got it. And the design is fun. So ultimately, even though I'm sitting here bitching and moaning about how a lot of Doomsday is going to be made up with all these bullshit characters that you made over the past couple of years, Doomsday is technically the best chance those characters have to do anything that endears them to the audience. So the best chance we have for these characters to mean something and do something moving forward is going to happen in Doomsday. And you can't go back in time. They're on set filming right now. Right? And I love these characters too. You know, like, I think this is one of those weird situations where maybe I went too hard, or maybe I just am too frustrated. But I'm actually a Marvel fan. I want them to do better. I like Thunderbolts. I supported Thunderbolts. I talked a lot about Thunderbolts. I told people about Thunderbolts. I think Thunderbolts is great. But I can't turn around in the face of terrible data and try to just keep that shtick going. Like, I'm not going to say, like, I can't be that guy. You know what I mean? Like, I can't, like, there's going to be some influencers out there. They know exactly what's going on. They know how bad it is, and they're just going to ignore it because it's better for their platform. It's better for their engagement. It's better for their brand if they just ride or die for Marvel. I'm not that guy. I've never been that guy. I will unabashedly admit that I'm a fan before a critic, but I have to tell you what's really going on. This is not good. You know what I mean? So don't get it twisted. I'm going to be here tomorrow. Technically not. I have the day off. But I'm going to be here the next day. I'm going to be here the day after. I'm going to be here for Fantastic Four. I'm going to be here for San Diego Comic-Con. I'm going to be here for Doomsday. I'll tell you what. One thing that I'm not going to be here for, though, is the rest of the Disney Plus shows this year. I can't do it. I can't do any of these shows. So I'm done on Disney Plus shows. But I'm still here for the movies. I'm still here for the videos. I'm going to make the theories. I'm going to make the content. I'm not going anywhere. I am secretly pivoting into Warhammer because I think it's a real potential that, like, it's over in the next 3 years and I need to do Warhammer. But at least for the next 3 years, I'm not going anywhere. So don't get it twisted. Shub says, yeah, I agree with everything you say. Times have changed and they need to learn or lean into more popular characters from the now. Yes, that I think is true. I am, Donovan73 says, RDJ is a geriatric Doom that the younger generation has no interest in, per my 24-year-old. I mean, look, that could be true. Let me ask you a question about that in a really facetious way. Are you telling me, Donovan, that the same studio that fucked this all up might still be fucking it up? You don't say. Like, yeah, of course. That's possible. And by the way, if that happens, it'll go down as one of the stupidest, boneheaded decisions ever made. I personally think that it's maybe one of the only plays they had, and I actually do think that RDJ is that guy. Okay? So, to me, I'm not there yet. I actually still believe in the RDJ Doom. I still am excited for that story and Doomsday and all of that. I'm more concerned that, like, I'm going to have to watch the Thunderbolts versus the washed Captain America movie Avengers people. Like, that's what I'm worried about. I wish the RDJ Dr. Doom was playing everybody on this movie like fucking Eddie Murphy, if I'm being honest with you. So, different strokes, different folks. Braden Thompson says, it does not help this MCU disaster that they cannot even use the world's most popular effing superhero of all time whenever they want. Yeah, unfortunately, the Spider-Man thing is a big deal. And it does continue to hurt them. But they do have the X-Men. I mean, that's the thing. It's, like, hard to imagine X-Men not pulling numbers. You know what I mean? Like, the Thunderbolts kind of make sense. Frankly. If the X-Men movies start making 400 million, then we're like, ooh. You know what I mean? Then it's like, ooh. Vandolph says, Marvel, use the best comic book tales. Period. Yeah, I don't get why they went away from that. You know, and even in that deep dive we did on Kevin last week, there were a lot of moments where he talked about how the comics were really what gave them everything that they used. Kevin doesn't really say that anymore. It's tough because we've heard a lot of stories of like, okay, comic book writers not happy with Marvel. Maybe there's something going on there. It would be a shame if Disney was like, you know, Kevin, we think in the next 10, 15 years, these contracts with these writers are going to go a bad way. So we're going to request that you stop strictly adapting any comic book story because that will become a future lawsuit. Like, it's a shame. That would suck. If that's what happened, that would suck. No clear reporting on that. Just rumors. James R. says, I'm watching half an hour behind. Do you think they should delay the soft reboot after Secret Wars to just restart the MCU in 5 to 10 years? No, they don't need to delay the soft reboot. No, I don't think so. Appreciate you, brother. Slug says, Marvel is going to hard reset because of 5 years of confusion. Everyone now expects the Endgame level movie because it set the bar for the MCU. Yeah, I think there's some truth in that. I really do wonder what the reboot is going to look like, because like it is too much, right? The canon's too much. There are characters like Gaia that frankly are so terrible it's worth ending the entire cinematic universe so that we never have to see her again. So can you really fix all that with a reboot that still wants to have the good parts of its canon? Like Marvel's in this weird spot where they know it's too much. The No New Fans Club. It's in the Wall Street Journal article. Like, they're fully aware of it. And yet, they don't want to let go of all this canon and all the value that they've added to fans. I mean, they are really in a tricky spot. I don't envy them. Shub follows up and says, also, I think they should try to make their movies less costly, something like 111, 150 range if possible. Yeah, and I know nobody wants to hear it, but AI will be a big part of that. And yeah, I mean, dude, there's no reason that Thunderbolts movie should be $200 million. Like, that's crazy. $200 million for that movie. That movie should cost like 50, maybe 100. You know? Like, I understand it had a lot of VFX, but it feels small. Like, it feels like a small movie. Why is that movie $200 million? That's crazy. Aura.com says, saw the Thunderbolts in the drive-in movies yesterday with the family, and it was great. Nerd Avengers for life. I bet it's really fun in the drive-thru, actually. Yeah. And look, here's the thing, too. This has never happened before, but it's possible by next Monday, I will be talking about how I was wrong. Like, do you realize that? If this movie has incredible second weekend, I'm talking like Alexi now. No conjunctions. If this movie do good business, then Josh wrong. And I'll come out and own it. I'll admit it. I have no problem with that. But from where I'm standing right now, this is the take. So we'll see. Justin Shannon says, until the MCU can get back on track, they should stick with Spider-Man, Avengers, X-Men, FF. DC should take note, too. No Clayface, Deathstroke, Bane. Oh, I agree with that. Here's the thing. If you look at their next 4 movies, it's pretty stacked. Fantastic Four, Avengers Doomsday, Spider-Man One More Day or Brave New Day or whatever the fuck, and then Avengers Secret Wars. 2 Avengers movies, a Spider-Man movie, and a Fantastic Four movie. That's A-list, baby. That's all A-list. So, like, in a sense, they're already fixing the problem. And then the other movie is X-Men. Literally X-Men. Right? So, look, maybe they do have a bright future. Maybe they can fix these problems and cook, but it doesn't feel right. The weekend Thunderbolts comes out and underperforms. I mean, it performed to expectations, which were so bad a month ago that Marvel panicked. That's really the story, right? But it's weird to, like, come out in the middle of a year with 9 projects, 2 bombs, and your Daredevil show couldn't chart once, and you come out and say, it's Disney Plus's fault. Kevin was spread too thin, but it's all better now. What? How is it all better now? Am I not about to have to hear about these other shows? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't feel right. Joshua says, I have no friends. Thanks for reminding me. Oh, shit, my bad. Hey, I'm your friend. I'll see the movie with you. RF Gaming says, my kid, 16 next week, has been down on the MCU for a while now. The moment Thunderbolts ended, he just yelled, the MCU is back. MCU needs that audience. MCU has that audience. That audience didn't go away. It's actually the rest of the audience that did. I'm trying to make that point. Like, I've been trying to say it many different ways, many different times, and that's not to like belittle that individual experience. Like, like on Thursday and Friday, we got excited that this movie was good. It felt so cool. There's so much like energy in the tower, in the Discord. People were like, dude, we're back. Guys, we never left. We're not back. We're still here. That's what's happening. Like, if you really want to know what's happening, that is what's happening. It seems like his son is the audience that they lost. Well, how could his son be down on the MCU if he's not watching it? Kaylin J says, I think the new Avengers title will help the marketing. Here's hoping they can hit 420 to 500 milli worldwide by the end of this week. What? That would be crazy. That would be nuts. Dude, that would be great. That would be great. Yeah, Rob. Yeah, we're talking about it. I did a big video about it too. So here's my take on this, Caleb. I don't know if this new Avengers thing is going to work. It could. It's kind of clever. But doesn't it? I mean, I don't know. To me, it feels a little desperate. Like, do you really think the people that sat out this weekend are going to see a billboard and be like, oh, it's the new Avengers? And they're going to rush out and see the movie? I don't know. I almost think they're going to cancel their pre-order to Doomsday. I feel like that is more likely. But I'd love to be wrong, man. Look, I would love for that new Avengers thing to work. But guys, again, think about how much Marvel put into the marketing within the last month. Think about it. I don't know. Sean, welcome back to the Nerd Vengers, man. You are a Nerd Venger once again. Zach Attack says super shit, super shit, super shit. Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. We'll see how Superman does, right? I still can't believe we don't have a second trailer, but apparently it's going to be soon. Maybe the 12th? Maybe something close? We'll see. Joshua says, seriously, though, none of my friends are into Marvel. Damn! Were they ever or just nah? Parker Thwip says, love the movie, but the moment they mentioned Sam, I was taken out. Me. Oh, yeah. That shit. Yeah. 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 I was never taken out. I loved the movie. I actually had a great time. It wasn't until Saturday or Sunday and then into today when the official numbers started rolling out and I started to see how bad it was. I mean, that soured my mood, man, you know? And you might be like, and I get this all the time, right? It's like, oh my God, I'm really trying here. It probably doesn't seem like it, but I'm trying so hard to not just go full toxic, like total troll, yelling, screaming, freaking out on chat. I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying real hard, okay? But it matters, man. And to me, as much as, like, here's what I would say. Here's how I'll say it. I feel very strongly that Disney and Marvel were literally using money and resources to try to make it seem like this weekend was going better than it was. And in fact, like, I think probably many of you probably believed the movie was doing better than it was, right? Like, doesn't that make sense? Like, many of us thought it was going better than it was. And to me, when I saw the numbers, it was like a veil had been lifted. And I realized that a lot of that party feeling was probably orchestrated. You know what I mean? And that doesn't feel good. Like, I want my team to win, dude. And that's why when Thunderbolts was doing well, or I thought it was doing well, like leading into last week, I was very vocal about it and sharing it and positive because I wanted to share via, you know, the platforms or the influence or whatever, however you want to say it. I wanted to sort of share, this is a successful thing. Come be a part of this entertaining, fun, successful thing, right? So I did my part. But it's like, you look at it now and you're just like, damn, that's not good. And it speaks to a number of issues and problems. And because this movie was so clearly a version of Marvel that we weren't sure would work, but was also kind of how Marvel made its bread and butter in the first place, the question was, will this still work? Can quality carry them through? And I keep coming back to, like, the conclusion is quality alone is not going to get them out of this. Do you know what I mean? Josh McCumbel Bluegrass says, chicks always be lying. Oh, brother, it's not just chicks, it's humans. Like, so here's something that's kind of interesting. I've brought this up before. It's a little bit of a mind fuck. It also makes people uncomfortable. So people say a lot of shit, right? People will say a lot of shit. And then if you ask them to literally put their money where their mouth is, you will see logic and reason snapping back into people. So, like, just as one example, the next movie that comes out that people think is going to be a bomb because it's woke. Okay. And I'm actually, you can actually do this. It's an experiment, but you could actually do it. So maybe you've got a friend and they just hate woke shit, you know, whatever. And the next movie that seems like it's going to be woke, they're going to be like, bro, here comes another bomb. Hollywood doesn't know what they're doing, you know? I'm just going to guess they sound like that. Tell them you will bet them hundreds of dollars that the movie will make money. And they will not be as confident as they were 2 seconds ago. Okay? Now, what does that mean? What does that indicate? It means that humans have this tendency to speak in, narrative. We tend to exaggerate, and it's all figurative in a sense. But then if you ask somebody to actually put their money where their mouth is, you will see a completely different side of their brain come out. People will start to say, well, technically it could be successful. I don't want to lose this money. I'm feeling like it's going to be woke and go broke, but Barbie made a bunch of money. Like, do you see what I mean? So I say all of that only to say that it's not just women. It's a human thing. We lie all the time, mostly to ourselves. And I don't know why the fuck we have to get so deep about it anyway. It's a goddamn Marvel channel. Leave me alone. Xavier says, if Doom is on the Fantastic Four ship in the Thunderbolts post-credit scene, the haunting note at the end of F4 theme gave me scary vibe. Ooh, that's kind of fun. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, wouldn't that be a shock? That would be super fun. You know, one thing I kind of been thinking about with regards to just Doomsday in general, Man, I wonder if we're going to get any Doom bots. Because Doom has created, like, Doom can create himself as a Doom bot. But, dude, like, okay, so think back to Children's Crusade. He made a Doom bot of Wanda that was so convincing that the Young Avengers and the X-Men thought it was really her. And they didn't realize until after, like, it blew up or whatever. They were like, oh, shit, this is a Doom bot. So I wonder if Doom will be using any Doom bots to, like, infiltrate different groups or, stuff like that. That could be really fun. That would be cool. Emerald Knight says with a 10 spot, love the streams, Josh. Imagine if Revenge of the Sith was still out this past weekend. How much would Thunderbolts have made? Did they remove it this weekend? Wow. That's a bold move. I didn't know that, actually. I thought it was still out. Wow. Yeah, that's probably not good. Probably wouldn't have done too good there. DS says, Kevin Feige washed. Confirmed. What if Avengers Doomsday fails? If Avengers Doomsday fails, man, just... if Avengers Doomsday fails, that Monday will be the start of me all in on Warhammer. You think I'm all in on Warhammer now? You think I'm bringing up Warhammer too much now? Oh, you just wait. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Holy shit. Elijah says with a $20 holla. That's very generous, man. Thank you. Says, Stark learned his lesson and then applied that character development to the final battle with Obadiah in Act 3. I like it. Sentry learns lesson, then mind wipes and movie over. There's no application of the lesson we learned. Missing Act 3. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, but ultimately the reason they do that is because they can't have a fully formed Sentry. Like, look, maybe it's a creative decision. It kind of feels like they couldn't just let Sentry pop off. That he's, like, too powerful to just go completed unfettered, you know. So, I hear you. It is kind of weird, but to be fair, 14 months later, he's aware. So he knows what's going on 14 months later. I would imagine he's been filled in on what happened, and it probably has developed him to some degree as a character. But yeah, I mean, it's nowhere near as tight as some of these other, Phase 1 movies and stuff like that. But, Rossi, oh boy, I lost it. Rossi with a $10 holla says, just trying to say I'm sad about Thunderbolts with this sticker. Oh, okay. I gave it 8 out of 10 and thought it would be my sleeper hit. I really agree with Marvel and Crying Wolf. I still had trepidation going because of this. I think that's the whole story. That's what's going on. So yeah, like it might be the case that they ruined their own shit. Like they can't just like get by on quality anymore, but that's on them because they did so much bad stuff for so many years. So it kind of doesn't matter how we've arrived here. Like, oh no, we can't do quality movies with D and C level characters. Well, just get the fucking message and move on. You have all the other characters, dude. I mean, you don't have Spider-Man and stuff, but like, come on, man. Rob, give me a second. Let me tear through all these. Let me tear through all these soupies here. I should be done soon. Oh, this one's good. Let's see here. You did Eric Voss so dirty with that pic in the last video. LMAO. Really? I did. First of all, that was my editor, not me, and I didn't think the image was bad. Why? Was it like an older image? I don't understand. Did he not look good? Oh, sorry. John Cross says Avengers stopping filming because of tariffs. Is that actually being reported or no? Because look, I know Trump is out there talking about it, but I don't think anything officially has happened yet, huh? But wouldn't that be some shit? Wouldn't that be some shit, huh? The real villain's Trump? I don't know, man. I mean, look, a lot of people ask me about this online. Here's my take on it. Seems kind of bad. It seems like increasing the cost of movies to 100%. Yeah, it seems kind of bad. Okay? I don't really have much more to say. It just seems not great. Parker Thwip says, by the way, I'm not saying Sam's the problem. I love any connectivity and will take any they can give, just sharing my pointless little experience. No, I hear you, man. Like, but that's the thing. It's like, can you make films in a cinematic universe that are individually good while everything else around it has been disappointing? I don't think so. I don't think so. It's tough. It's a tough one. The Exodus says, what's your prediction for the Mutant Saga overarching story? Personally, I'd make Franklin the centerpiece. Ooh, I like that. Apocalypse the overarching villain, and Franklin's evolution a driving story element. Okay, so I think the X-Men saga is going to be that He Who Remains had sort of prevented the X-Men in the sacred timeline, and now they're in the sacred timeline, and I think that's just going to cause a lot of problems. And I think Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister, and maybe the Celestials are going to be connected to that. So I think it's either Apocalypse or maybe the Celestials or Annihilus or something as the big bad, because remember, Marvel like switches their characters and combines characters and stuff like that. So I would imagine because the original, you know who the original villain for the X-Men saga was going to be? It was going to be Doctor Doom. So this came out recently from some insiders, because Doom and the X-Men were both things that He Who Remains kept out of the sacred timeline. When He Who Remains ends the multiversal war, he recreates the sacred timeline, and he made sure there was no Doctor Doom, and he made sure there was no X-Men. Not really, right? So the original plan was going to be after Secret Wars, Doom and the X-Men are back, and Doom is doing a lot of fucked up shit. And maybe He Who Remains was right. That was the original plan. So there's a chance that's still what they're going to do. And look, I'll tell you this right now. If Doomsday makes $2 billion, you're getting 10 more years of RDJ. Even if it makes $1 billion and then Secret Wars does $2 billion, you're getting 10 more years of RDJ as Doctor Doom, most likely. And you might be like, bro, like they can't afford that shit. Brother, they can't afford not to do that shit. If the numbers are there, they can't afford not to do this. What do you want to do? Spend $200 million on the fucking Thunderbolts movie? Or don't make the Thunderbolts movie and make 2 movies with RDJ. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you what's going to happen. Rossi says, off topic, did you watch Tales of the Underworld? I did, and I thought it was good. I actually really liked it, but it's almost a similar thing that's going on with Star Wars, and I wonder, it's funny because I love Dave Filoni, and I love Kevin Feige. I love these guys, and yet I actually think they're wrong. And the main thing they're wrong about is that they can continue to make it like it was in the modern day, and it'll do fine. So, like, Tales of the Underworld. It's really cool. It's really fun. I feel like I re-enter the Star Wars world. I get all the vibes. I filled in a little bit on the story, and then I don't think about it at all. And I don't know that Star Wars has to kind of pull itself out of a bad time. But I don't think Star Wars can necessarily survive if that's what all the content is. I think they need to turn it up, which they are in Ahsoka Season 2. And if Dave gets to make that movie, it's going to blow your mind. What they have planned for that movie is mind-blowing. So it's like, in a sense, they know that stuff matters and you want to go big. I don't understand why certain projects are not going bigger, right? But yeah, I like Tales of the Underworld. I thought it was cool. Sean says, if every movie is spectacle, there is no spectacle. Wrong. I think between the reviews and, in my opinion, rewatchability of this movie, it's going to have a good second weekend. I hope it has a good second weekend. But you're wrong because, like, look, technically, could there be movies that aren't spectacle? Sure. But blockbusters are meant... Do you know why they call it a blockbuster? Does anybody know why? Because this is a summer movie that kicks off the blockbuster season. Do you know why it's called a blockbuster? Because the lines used to go around the block. You had people lining up around the block. Spectacle, man. People don't remember. Star Wars was spectacle. Star Wars was spectacle. That first shot of the Tantus 4 and then the Super Star Destroyer, and it just keeps going and going and going. Motherfuckers had never seen anything like that. They had never seen anything like that. It was spectacle. RF Gaming Channel says, LOL, Josh, I meant they need that teen audience, the kids that have spending money and becoming young adults. Teens haven't cared since Endgame. That's true, but I would ask you, RF, did your son watch all the movies or has he kind of checked out? Like, I'm just curious. Yeah, for sure. You need the younger audience. Absolutely. The younger audience, by the way, is seeing Minecraft. Like, you know that I think it's 70% of the people that have seen Minecraft, or at least this was the opening weekend, 70% of those people are 25 and younger. 70%? Do you know what I like about people that are 25 and younger? Nothing. And yet, about to be probably $1 billion movie, 70% of its audience was 25 and under. Holy shit. Crazy. John Cross says, Rob's video yesterday mentions 12 Avengers Unite. Oh my God. Joshua says, they're just not into it. Sure. Randon says, most of my friends have abandoned ship with Marvel. With Star Wars and DC being cooked right now, in a year, it'll be the den of How to Train Your Dragon. Maybe. Fuck, Josh, I'm making the Nerdvengers with a Z. Come join me. Jareth, hey. Shout out to you, Jareth. Hey, Jareth. I watched the race, and I watched the race back. There was a moment where it felt like, and you have to describe this to me, but it almost felt like there was a moment where a couple of horses just went crazy, and then your horse, more or less, just accepted where it was at. And it felt like I saw you trying to get it to be like, no, but it like just didn't. Is that like, am I getting that right, or am I like misinterpreting it? Because it was a great run, it was a great race, and actually it looked like you were well positioned, but then it felt like Chunk of Gold, like almost like just accepted its place in the pack. I don't know. Tell me, I could be crazy. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. Either way, congratulations to you, man. It was a good run. It was good. C Black says, I think Thunderbolts will make $600 million. That would be a goddamn miracle, dude. Pretty damn close to 100% correct. Isn't that interesting? And so, like, I guess they are just animals at the end of the day. Like, because I didn't see a physical reason as to why you lost. It was like it just felt like, yeah, man, and animals do that, you know? But hey, you ran a good race, and you railed against it. I saw you trying. It's kind of interesting. John says, enjoyed Thunderbolts. Marvel's issue isn't the Phase 4 characters. It's how bad the recent main characters did. That's an interesting take. Now, this is a guy that has his thinking cap on. It's about how bad the recent main characters did. Thor, Guardians 3, Ant-Man 3 were awful. Thunderbolts equal clean slate and not woke. Interesting. So I don't know that I 100% agree with you, but I like that you're coming up with different ideas. It's fair to say that some of the most popular characters coming out did have some disappointing films. It's almost like the Kenobi effect, right? And John, if you're feeling what I'm saying here, check this out. Walk with me on this. Kenobi is the most viewed Star Wars show. And I think it damned them. So you don't see it in the data. It's tough, right? You see the data, you look at Kenobi and you're like, damn, Kenobi got a lot of fucking views. But then, like, the views steadily go down from there. Book of Boba Fett's down. Like, everything goes down. So what people don't... It's hard to see this in the data. And it's like, Kenobi had the highest views, and people did not like it. So a movie like Love and Thunder could be a good example of what you're talking about here. Love and Thunder makes way too much money. What did it make? Like 760 mil? And that movie's trash. But it might be the case that, like, that was the cornerstone. Like, that was when fans showed up, they loved Thor, they were like, fuck yeah, and then they watched it and they were like, bro, what? And then that's what you see in Quantumania. Because ironically, like, Quantumania is like an 81% audience rating. Like, people didn't realize how, like, I did, but a lot of people didn't realize how bad it was until later on. So maybe it's like, yeah, that's actually an interesting take. I wonder if that is... Like, what I would say, the way I would phrase this is, Marvel did themselves a disservice by making even their more popular characters have kind of lackluster films. That was actually a big piece of the puzzle. I like that take. Parker Thwip says, some good news in your DMs. The Emperor protects. Awesome, brother. Thank you so much, man. And much love, man. Samuel says, Tony acquiring Infinity Stones in his gauntlet is the moment he realized he is Doom. And also had an acceptance in acknowledging he is Iron Man. Snap. Whoa, I like that, Samuel. That's deep, man. That could be. So if you have all the stones, you might have some cosmic wisdom. You might be able to see the truth. Wouldn't that be interesting? What if he realized the truth at the end? Because... You know, I shared this on Twitter the other day. I had a tweet go crazy viral because I was bringing up the scene in Endgame when Tony goes back in time and meets his father. Now, if you watch that scene, his father says, my wife is pregnant right now. And Tony gives this, like, surprised look. And then he even asks his dad, how far along is she? And his dad's like, I don't know, she's here. She's so far along that she can't stand the sight of me chewing or the sound of me chewing or some shit like that, right? But if you watch that scene carefully, it looks like Tony, who is a fucking genius, by the way, it looks like Tony is realizing my mom's pregnancy does not line up with my birth. And so it's possible from that moment, he actually realizes that he was adopted. But he probably just doesn't say anything because it's like doesn't necessarily matter that much, you know? Okay, let's keep going here. Lou says Thunderbolts was a 6.5. It didn't have as much fun and cool moments as Marvel in its prime. Marvel is not back. Good is not good enough anymore. Damn, dude. What a hater, this guy. You know what I mean? What a hater. That couldn't be me. Aaliyah says, White House statement backing off of a lot of Trump's posts. Maybe he got panic call from Gibson because Passion of the Christ will be filmed overseas. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, dude. I don't know. I tend to believe the guy might fly by the seat of his pants. I think he might say things, and what would you say? Shoot from the hips? Go off, half-cocked. Like, there's a lot of ways to say it. But I guess that's good. Watch Those Wrist Rockets says, Chicken Jockey, 25 and under club, baby. I know. Look, my children are under 25, so I obviously care about people that are under 25. The point I was trying to make is like you guys, this generation's kind of awful. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like if Marvel wants to succeed, they should probably understand you guys, right? And why are y'all going to Minecraft and you're not going to Marvel movies? Well, that's something they should think about. And I think it's pretty obvious. You look at the social media and you're all TikToking about it. It's all a big meme. It's all a big experience. You see what I mean? So it's like, look, you should try to understand the audience. We have to raise the saving generation. I know. Zaya says they will recast Iron Man for the next saga if RDJ plays Doom for the next 10 years. I think they might, yeah. I think they might. And we'll see. We're speculating. I'm just speculating when I say that, but I see it going that way for sure. All right, let's hang out in the chat for a little bit. What's on your mind, guys? What are you thinking? What are you thinking about this, huh? Don't just stop at Iron Man? What do you mean? Oh, like T'Challa? Yeah, T'Challa would be great. I mean, they have the opportunity, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. Are you calling Rob? Rob, are you still in here? You still in here, brother? Do you think Doom will use Sentry as a battery rather than Molecule Man? I have considered that. Yeah, I thought about that. You know, there's a part in the movie where Sentry is in that room and he's playing with the Rubik's Cube. And I was like, dude, that actually looks like the cover of New Avengers 29, which has the Beyonder playing with Ant-Man. I don't know. There was something about it where I was like, But, all right, Rob, I'm going to give you a call. Let me get this loaded up. I got to shut off this music. Josh, hit the gritty? What the hell? What the hell? Oh, hang on. Let me check this real quick. Aw, shit. Okay, I just heard something really cool about Warhammer, but I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it. I can't. Don't try it. All right, let's give Rob a call. Let's see what's going on. Rob? Yeah, I got you. I think I got you a little hot. Let me adjust that. That could be on my end. Okay. What did I crash out? Look, there were a couple moments. I tried to keep it together, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's tough because look, I love the movie. You and I both really like this movie. We even talked about it. I think it was like Friday morning. But I mean, these numbers are not great, and you know, hopefully it has good legs and word of mouth. But barring some miracle, we're looking at like Eternals numbers. You know what I mean? Oh, okay. So let me adjust that there. Okay, that should be good.
Can you guys hear me? Nerd Vengers,
Let's
fellow
see.
Nerd Vengers.
I think they got you. I think we should, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, number one, you're not entirely wrong. About the stance on Thunderbolts. Like Thunderbolts is a great movie. It's a fun movie with a really, really big problem. And the big problem is that Marvel still follows the formula of isolation, right? Like, you know, obviously spoilers for this movie, but
Yeah.
there's a point in this film when the Void emerges and just effectively takes out New York
Yeah.
by all standard and measurement, right? And there's not hide nor hair of anyone.
Yeah.
There's no Spider-Man, there's no Daredevil, no none of that stuff. And to a degree, sure, you know, I get it, especially with Kingpin, right? You know, he's mostly a Spider-Man character, you know, at this point in time. Despite being a Daredevil villain at the moment, like he originated as a Spider-Man character, so as I understand it, he's still under all that stuff with Sony and everything. So They can only do so much with him.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, right, some almost 20 years after Iron Man 1 and the building of this shared universe, people don't really want that same thing anymore.
Yep.
And you kind of have to shift things up and you have to make things different. And just I think honestly, calling the Thunderbolts the new Avengers was kind of a mistake.
Mm.
I would not have done that.
Yeah.
The reason being because if they're now the new Avengers, for the average person going to see the movie, which I can guarantee you, my neighbor who doesn't know anything about Marvel at all, and she's slowly getting caught up on all the movies and all that kind of stuff, she's going to say, "So, like, is this the new official Avengers team?"
Yeah.
Because how many? I mean, sure, people stay for the post credits, but not everybody stays for the post credits,
Right.
right? So it's like me creating a YouTube video and saying, "Okay, guys, the most important part of this whole story will happen in the last 30 seconds of the video."
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, based on audience retention, right?
Half of
Like
your
some
people are not going to
number,
see that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
half of my people are not going to see it. And so if I reference that super important thing in a future video, they're not going to know what I'm talking about. And so for something significant like that, you'd have to put that, in the beginning of the video, or
Yep.
sorry, the beginning of the movie, or at some point in the main movie itself. But even then, I wouldn't necessarily have done that. But to the point that you're making, right, or like at least that you were making,
Mhm.
the idea that Thunderbolts doesn't really feel like what you would expect from a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie at this point in time.
Yeah.
And the idea of bloat, the idea that people sit down, even with Marvel releasing their statement, the No Fans Club.
Right.
This was the inevitable outcome of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There was no way to avoid it.
Yeah.
It's a tale as old as time, right? In 1961, DC introduces the Flash of two worlds, right? So you get Barry Allen and Jay Garrick, they team up. We get two different universes now, right? 3 years later, in 1964, Gardner Fox and them do was it Crisis on Earth 3. And so then we get the Crime Syndicate. And it goes on that way for something like 20 years until the DC Comics landscape is so bloated and so huge that fans don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Right? If they pick up a Superman comic, is it the Superman comic from Earth 2? Is it the Superman comic from Earth 1? Is it,
Yeah.
Ultraman? Like people were completely lost in stories. So DC reboots on, 1984, I'm sorry, 1986, 1987 with Crisis on Infinite Earths, right? But this is an inevitable thing. There's a reason why Joe Quesada tasked Brian Michael Bendis with having the Scarlet Witch wipe 98% of the mutant population out. There's
Yeah.
a reason why the Avengers were disbanded, and there's a reason why they brand new date Spider-Man. Because you run into these circumstances where if enough time passes and you keep adding to your universe over and over again, that you end up with this hugely bloated thing. The difference is that with movies and TV shows, it's a lot easier to follow.
Hmm.
Marvel's just not capitalizing on it in a way that makes the most practical sense. And they're not capitalizing on it in a way that works for the movie going audience because you can't treat the movie audience like comic book fans.
Right.
You and I could sit down and read J. Michael Straczynski's recent Captain America run. And outside of a couple of appearances by Spider-Man, there isn't really any involvement there.
Right.
And we're like, okay, I mean, cool, it's a Captain America story. Or we could read Jed McKay's Moon Knight, where vampires are literally taking over the city of New York, and Blade never shows up.
Right.
And just say, well, I mean, it kind of sucks, but I guess that's just the way that it goes.
Mhm.
You take a soccer mom or a hockey dad, and you tell them this is a shared universe where at any point anybody could appear. And you have this massive calamity in the city of New York, the hub of pretty much all superheroes and all the movies that most anybody cares about that have been happening recently. And not one of those characters appears. It's a hard sell
Yeah.
to convince people that it's a shared universe. It's a hard sell to convince people that this all kind of ties together into one great, big, huge narrative.
And
And more so than
it's
what's
even
up?
worse than that, actually, because I think it's not, it's what you're saying, but it's worse because the mainstream audience, like, because the most popular movies they ever made were Endgame and Infinity War, right? And
Yes, far away.
although it's probably a small percentage of the fans that only watch those movies, I'm willing to bet that a lot of casual fans did not watch the entire MCU and instead like really watched those, right? So it's not just what you're saying, it's that plus their favorite ones were the craziest. So like look
Yeah.
at the evidence of the box office. No Way Home makes damn near 2 billion without China. And it's it's crazy. It's all the Spider-Man back. It's the craziest thing ever, right? And Multiverse of Madness with Reed and the Charles and stuff, and that almost does $1 billion. And it's like, I think what's happening is the audience, it's yes, they don't understand why those characters are not there, but they're also just let down. Like they just feel like it's flat compared to what came before.
Well, sure, because I mean, it's something like I've been saying this for years, right? When I was doing Geek Culture Explain, when I'm making videos like this on Comics Explain, as infrequently as they are, that I don't think the standard is that people saw Avengers Endgame and they're like, every movie needs to be as big as this.
Hmm.
Because I think most people realize the only reason why Avengers Endgame and Infinity War were as big as they were because of the 10 years that led up to it. But what this did is it opened up the idea of crossovers.
Right.
People want to see characters they don't normally team up with crossing over with each other and associating with each other. Like people want to see that kind of thing. And so, there were multiple instances where Marvel Studios could have done that and never did. And it doesn't
Right.
have to be a great big huge thing, right? In the Battle of New York with Shuma Gorath in Doctor Strange 2 was a great moment for Spider-Man to pop up.
Yeah.
And while Doctor Strange doesn't know who Spider-Man is, the 30-second conversation between the two of them establishes that the world is aware of Spider-Man.
Right.
They just don't know that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, right? And it's like, hey man, like, do you need anything? You need any help or anything? And Doctor Strange's like, no, I got this Spider-Man. And Peter's like, okay, and then he just leaves.
Right.
And so that just reminds you of that. Or if it's some scene in Daredevil and Spider-Man just swings by.
Right.
Now I get that these are things that Marvel Studios is limited by due to the rights issues that they have with Sony and that kind of thing. But I think what Infinity War and Avengers Endgame did was, again, it brought the idea of people seeing characters crossing over with each other.
Yeah.
I think the other big thing here is that that more than anything, people don't see the finish line.
Hmm.
They don't see the through
I
line.
agree
And
with
you've
that.
said
Yeah.
this, and I've said this, and Eric Voss has said this, and Charlie has said this, and Paul has said this, and everybody has said this
Yep.
in some way. That when it came to the first 10 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, yes, nobody knew exactly what it would look like when Thanos snapped his fingers. Nobody knew what the exact circumstances were going to be, how he would get the Infinity Stones, who he would destroy or defeat along the way. But everybody knew at that point, he's going to snap his fingers. Half of all life in the universe is going to disappear. Then it's the question of what happens next. So it's
Hmm.
that one moment that everybody's waiting on their breath for. But that moment doesn't exist here.
Right.
And that's kind of one of the issues that you have when you build this cinematic universe and you borrow characters from comic book stories, but then you in turn try to create your own stories separate from comic book stories.
Yeah.
Right? It would be like if they did House of M, right? They said, hey, like we're gonna do a House of M movie. And it's like, cool, right? This movie's called House of M, and it's gonna center on Wanda and all that kind of stuff. And let's say this has all been the X-Men so far,
Yeah.
right? The one thing everybody is going to be waiting on is the one moment where Wanda says, no more mutants. Everybody's going to be waiting on that moment.
Yeah.
Right. So that moment right there is the linchpin for everything that happens over the course of every single movie along the way.
Yeah.
Everybody knows in some capacity it's building up to that moment.
Yeah.
Whether or not you have some scenario where Wolverine wakes up in this alternate reality, he's the only one who remembers, and then you have the hand wavy Layla Miller who starts waking everybody up. Whether any of that happens, I don't know. It's anybody's guess. It doesn't matter. But that's the one thing that everybody wants to see. What happens when she does that?
Yeah.
But when you look right now at the Marvel Cinematic
What
Universe,
is the one
it's
thing? Yeah.
what is the one thing?
Sure.
There is
Yeah.
no the one thing. I mean, I guess there's Doctor Doom creating Battleworld, but no one feels that.
Yeah.
No one knows what that.
We don't even know if the
specifically looks
Beyonder, like we don't even know if the Beyonder is a thing because there's been no evidence or lead up to any of that. So like you're right.
To,
Like
to
it's
any, yeah,
yeah,
to
it's-
any of that. Like,
yeah.
yeah, no one knows. Like, we haven't seen what Doctor Doom looks like. There's been no reference to what Doctor Doom was doing. At least in the time during the first 10 years of the Infinity Saga, it was them teasing the Infinity Stones to us. And it was almost us kind of getting these light bulb moments, like, holy cow! Like, you remember everybody's reaction when it turned out the Tesseract was actually an Infinity Stone the
Yeah.
whole time?
Yeah, for sure.
And
No,
people
and
were just like, "What?"
there were
Yeah, it was
theories,
nuts.
like people had made theories since Age of Ultron, right? And like
Mhm.
yeah, it's tough, man, because like so one of the things that I want to ask you about because when my first reaction when I got out of Thunderbolts was like, wow, that was really good, but I'm unfulfilled. And I was like talking to my wife about it, and she loved the movie, so we were actually arguing a little bit. I wasn't trying to argue, but she was like, I actually think it's great, and I'm like, I'm not trying to say it's bad, but here's I'm doing that whole Josh thing. But the thought I had was Civil War was a big setup movie for Infinity War and Endgame, right? And Civil War had, on the one side you had Tony Stark, and then on the other side you had Captain America. There's been some really interesting reports that have come out where like Marvel and like Perlmutter and some of the people over there did not want that movie to happen that way. They thought it was like too big of a budget. It was too crazy for a Captain America movie. But on top of that, you had the appearance of Spider-Man in the MCU for the first time ever. On top of that, you have the first appearance of Black Panther for the first time ever. And I look at Thunderbolts and I just consider my experience with that movie, and then I think to Civil War, and they're in different universes of fan service. Like, I like the movie. It's sharp. It's funny. The characters are good. Sentry was dope. But there is nothing in that movie that compares to seeing Spider-Man in the MCU for the first time, seeing Black Panther in the MCU for the first time, or having the literal Avengers fight each other. Like, you know what I mean? And Civil War is a fantastic narrative. It has all of the quality and the sophistication that the Thunderbolt script has, maybe even more because it's ensemble, bigger. But it has so much more fan service. And like, you had said, you were talking about how it's hard for Marvel to do all of this stuff, but that's the same studio that defied logic, that made the impossible happen. They've had Black Panther and Captain America and Iron Man and Spider-Man all fighting in a fucking movie. They're the studio that figured that out despite actually not even having the license to Spider-Man. So what happened to this studio that would be able to literally do unprecedented things to create fan service? Why are we now just settling? Why can't we, what happened? Like, do you know what I mean?
Okay, because it's the idea of throwing a variable that still fits within the established plan. Okay, so here's an example. Years and years and years ago, when myself, Benny, and Sal were doing the weekly poll, and it was originally just the three of us, right? Before we brought in all those other people, we were talking about the New 52 when DC was launching it. This was long after they did New 52, but a few years after DC launched it, we launched the podcast, and the question was, how did they even come up with the idea of the New 52 in the first place? And Sal made this joke, where Jeff Johns was like, well, I'm writing Flashpoint. And the idea is that Barry Allen goes back in time and saves his mom's life and totally screws up the universe. So he realizes that the only way to fix everything and set it back to the way it's supposed to be is to go back and let his mom die.
Right.
And then he comes back to the present day and everything's normal. And then like Dan DiDio and those guys are like, but what if he didn't?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what do you mean? It's like, let's just reboot right now, right? And like, that's how we got the New 52.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of what they did with Spider-Man and all that kind of stuff is they already had this established plan, right?
Mhm.
This, and this. These things are going to happen, and they're going to lead into Infinity War and Endgame. Now, Civil War was a little bit different because I know you read Johanna Robinson's book, and in that she explicitly states that like there was no, like it was supposed to be a Serpent Society movie.
Yep.
That was where the Serpent Society was introduced. Which is
They
why they chose
released
Sam
the
Wilson.
logo. Yeah, there was a logo. You could still find it.
There was a logo. Yeah, there was a logo and everything. And the decision was made behind the scenes that because, Warner Brothers was doing Justice
BVS,
League. Yeah, DC had to do something, or Batman vs Superman. Yeah, DC had to, or Marvel had to do something equally big.
I've brought this
so
up
they
to people.
chose
They
Civil
don't believe
War.
me, Rob. I've told people about
No,
this.
guys in the chat, it's 100% true. Go read Johanna Robinson's book, The Rise and Fall of Marvel Studios.
It's a
Or
great
The Rise
book.
of Marvel Studios, whatever it is. Like, it's an incredible book, and it gives you so much insight in what goes on behind the scenes. But that's literally what went down. Right. And so that's it's a little bit of an exception, right? That movie, the plot and everything could have been different. But the bigger point is that the story was already fleshed out. It fits seamlessly in with a larger plan to segue into Infinity War and Endgame. All they did was just drop a couple other characters in, and you were all set, right? Everybody was like, cool, right? The problem is, if they have a plan, no one knows what it is. No one recognizes what it is. And so instead of this scenario, right, where they're leading you into a room blindfolded, right? And you know it's your birthday, and you can kind of hear a few people whispering in the background. So you've pretty much figured out that it's a surprise party.
Right.
Instead, they are blindfolding you and they're putting earplugs in your ears, and they took away your sense of smell. Like, all five senses are dull. And you're just kind of wandering around in the dark with no idea what's going on.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what's happening here,
Yeah.
is that no one out there who's watching these movies has any clue what it's all going towards. Now, by itself, that's not a bad thing. And I mean, if we're looking at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, let's say in the first 10 years, the first 3 or 4 years, that's where we were.
Yeah.
We
For
had
sure.
no clue what any of this was going towards, if it was even going towards anything at all. Like, what's the point of all of this?
Yep.
But when you take that feeling right now and you combine it with the disorganization that's been going on since phase four, it gives this overall impression Marvel has no clue what they're doing.
Right.
They have no clue what they're doing. They don't know what they're planning. They're flying by the seat of their pants. They're just releasing movies. And so what matters in Thunderbolts today could be irrelevant in Marvel Studios in 3 years.
Hmm.
And because of that lack of feeling that anything that's happening really actually matters in the grand scheme of things, people don't have a reason to get invested.
Yeah.
People don't have a reason to sit down and say,
Or
I
to
need to watch
stay
Thunderbolts,
invested, right? Like that's the
or
thing.
or
Yeah.
or to stay invested. Like, somebody asked me the question, for example. Somebody in comments of one of my videos was like, I want to, like, what do I need to watch to get ready for the Fantastic Four?
Nothing.
And pretty much all the suggestions were like things that are not relevant to the MCU.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, if you want to get ready for the Fantastic Four, you should go watch like the old Ewan Gruffled Fantastic Four
Yeah.
movies,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because we may see the Council of Reeds, and you're going to need to know about that. You should watch that garbage Fan Four Stick movie,
Yeah.
from Miles Teller and them. And here's some stuff with the Multiverse Saga that you should watch. But that's more for understanding how the multiverse works and how they can exist in an alternate reality.
Yeah.
But there's no sitting down and saying, okay, well, watch Age of Ultron, because that's when Thor figures out it's the Infinity Stones.
Hmm.
And watch, go watch what is it, the first Thor movie, because that's when you see the Infinity Gauntlet in Odin's treasure room, right? And go watch this and go watch that, and watch these movies, because every movie has a little tidbit that leads up to it. And it's not some tidbit that you only realize is relevant because you are watching Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, and it's these callbacks to this moment, like, oh my God, how come I never saw that? No, it's a moment of Thanos just saying, fine, I'll do it myself, and grabbing the
Right.
gauntlet
Yeah.
glove,
Yeah.
right? And it's them showing you what the Infinity Stones are. And I think that's really what the MCU is lacking in so many ways,
Yeah.
is because there's just no through line. I've said for the longest time, this is why planning is so important. Like, I made a video on Geek Culture Explained years ago, and I said what Marvel should do, and I think this is a great learning experience. What Marvel should do is this, right? They create their, I don't know, landscape. They do their movies, whatever it is. They finish their story arc, essentially. Then they stop, right? And they take like a year off. Right? I mean, at the end of the day, Disney may or may not let them do it, but Marvel's got enough moxie at this point to be
Well,
able
they
to say,
used
look,
to. Yeah.
well, yeah, they used to, but I mean, Marvel, they could still probably do it, or at the very least say, okay, fine, we're going to release TV shows, but the TV show they release, right? They release two shows. The first one is Marvel 2-in-1, and the second one is Marvel Presents. Now,
Right.
I know they already borrowed the Marvel Presents branding for, what was it, Echo or whatever it was. But when I made this
Yeah.
video like 3 years ago, the idea was that Marvel Presents is just it's a plot hole show,
Hmm.
or a plot thread show, rather. It simply says, like, these are the plot threads that were left dangling over the course of this last narrative, this last arc, and so we're going to wrap them up. Right. And the example that I used in the video was, we're going to wrap up plot threads where, like, what did the Incredible Hulk see in Age of Ultron? Right. What happened when
Yeah.
Captain America went into the past and returned the Infinity Stones and built a life with Peggy Carter? Did he tell her that she gets Alzheimer's?
Yeah.
Right. Does he tell her that Hydra is secretly rebuilding
Yeah.
inside of Shield? Right. Like, how does he reconcile his morality with screwing up time? That would
Yeah.
be a very interesting interpersonal struggle. Like, just all these small little things, these small little threads that they just kind of fix and wrap up in these individual movies. It gives people a reason to care about what they saw about the character in the movie, but it's also them being able to satisfy Disney Plus's need to produce content
Mm.
in between the movies to get people to go to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And then the second one you do, Marvel 2-in-1, right? A half hour long show or an hour long show, and they introduce new characters in that series. right? She-Hulk did not need to be 6 episodes long.
Yeah.
Moon Knight did not need to be 6 episodes long.
Yeah.
Hawkeye didn't need to be 6 episodes long, and they totally screwed up Hawkeye. The
Yeah.
TV show Hawkeye should have just been following Clint Barton when he was Nomad during the 5 year period. I'm
Oh
sorry, not
yeah.
Nomad, Ronin
Yeah.
during the 5 year window, and like basically becoming Punisher.
Yeah.
Right, that's what that show should have been about. But at the end of the day, they chose to make it about Kate Bishop.
Yeah.
But the fact is that like Marvel 2-in-1 is basically a half-hour long segment. Hi, my name is She-Hulk. I'm basically a less powerful version of the Hulk, and I can change into the Hulk whenever I want to, unlike Bruce, who can only do it through anger.
Yeah.
And that's it. Right? Like, hey, my name is Moon Knight. I'm basically Marvel's Batman. And that's it. Right?
Yeah.
That's all these things do. Right? They simply just tease these characters like what Marvel used to do in the 70s. And it gives the audience the ability to take these little tiny digestible bites of these characters and to say, do I like them? Like, am I interested in seeing more of Moon Knight? And you
Yeah.
just track what people are searching for, what seems relevant. And if no one's talking about She-Hulk, you don't make a She-Hulk show. And if people are talking about Moon Knight, you make a Moon Knight show.
Hmm.
And you just kind of go from there, right? Like it's like all and all that does is while Marvel's doing that, basically throwaway content, Marvel is building up the next phase. They're planning the next phase over the course of a year or 2 years or whatever it is. So as far as we as the movie going audience go, it's just this seamless transition
Yeah.
into like the next phase of whatever the great big huge plan has to be. But again, at the moment, I don't think it's like the end times. I don't think that what's going on with Marvel right now spells doom for the company, right? I don't think like this is the end of it all, right? And Marvel's going to be nothing, right? Just this,
Yeah. No, it's not.
we used to be great once, right? I don't
Mhm.
think that's going to be the case at all, right? I think people who want it to be the end of Marvel, people who want to hate on Marvel, sure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to find a reason, and this was the reason they found in the moment. When this reason is over, they'll find a new one.
That's true.
Right. So again,
But those people
yeah,
were
so
around when Marvel was popping off. The thing is, and I remember, especially in the last couple of years of the Infinity Saga, there were people that were trying to make anti-Marvel content, and it just never stuck. And because they go where the views are, they just didn't do it. Now, Captain Marvel, and this was Brie Larson, basically, she gave them a bunch of ammunition, and they made a ton of videos about that. But by and large, that crowd was not able to break in and make anti-Marvel content. They eventually found angles and ways to do it, but Marvel in its heyday was so successful and so popular that like that didn't work. Like they just didn't. Nothing would stick, right? But it's funny. Like I hear what you're saying, and I think that would have obviously been a great way to do it. Here's I think where Marvel is at now, though, and this is like the really scary problem. Is like I don't even think that idea works now. Like, I don't think because of maybe fatigue and maybe just the brand damage, I don't even think that works now. And like, kind of the whole argument I've been making during this whole stream and like my take on Thunderbolts is like, Marvel might have fatigued their own audience so badly that they now have to abandon things that worked before, and it's still their fault. Like, because they made all this shit. So like, I think it really comes down to Doomsday, and it really comes to, because I think F4 is going to be good and fine. I don't know. I'm getting a little nervous about what the box office will be just based off of Thunderbolts. But like Doomsday has everything in it. It should perform well. But will it be a Kenobi show? Like, will it be the most watched thing that people don't like? Because that's the worst case scenario. If it's really good and it's satisfying and it's fun, then yes, people will check out the next one. And Spider-Man 4 should also be really good. And then you're going to have Secret Wars, and then you'll have the X-Men. But I think if this goes a bad way, we could be looking at like 1, maybe 2 Marvel movies a year, and they're hitting on the high end like 500-600 million. And even though that's technically still one of the biggest things in town, and a lot of studios would be jealous of that success, that's undeniably diminished from what they once were. So I don't think we're talking about, at least for me, I'm not really thinking about in terms of like Marvel being over, because, we've been reading comics forever. We know Marvel's been in really bad positions, and then they've had really popular moments. But it is more the case that like it might just never get back to the zeitgeist in the same way. And maybe it's a little bit more like Star Trek, which might scare people, but like, Star Trek still has a lot of content. They make Star Trek stuff all the time, but like none of their games really pop off like that. None of their shows really pop off. And I think there's a ceiling on what a Star Trek movie can do. So I think that's what's going to be figured out in the next couple of years. It's like, will Marvel get back to form, or will Marvel settle into a more diminished, less popular and less frequent thing,
Oh, I mean, sure. Okay, so like, I mean, kind of a personal example here, right? So when I first started my channel, right, it was literally comics explained, right? Like I will teach you everything you need to know about comics.
Right.
After a while, it just kind of morphed more into covering story arcs and things like that because that's what people were really interested in. But I can make a video right now in this very moment and say, okay, guys, I will teach you the secret history of Superman, the history that nobody knows, that Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster did not create Superman as you know him. And I'm not even talking about the reign of the Superman story in science fiction, the advanced guard of future civilization. No, no, no. And then we'll also talk about how a single newspaper assistant is the only reason why you, I, or anybody else in the world knows who Superman
Mm.
is. Um, so it's not that hard to return to those roots. At the moment, it's just kind of rolling with what people enjoy. And
Mhm.
people really seem to enjoy the idea of covering story arcs. But something to understand is I'm simply just a cog in the larger wheel, right? That anybody could come along and just become the new comics explained.
Mm.
It's not hard to do, right? They just have to make videos that people feel are more compelling than mine. And that's kind of where Marvel Studios is.
Mm.
Marvel Studios is no longer a thing where the Marvel name is enough to draw people in. Not
Sure.
anymore.
Yeah.
It was, right? Marvel could just make a Captain America film, right? Or Marvel could just make an Iron Man film, and people will go see it out of curiosity because they're aware of the characters, but they don't necessarily know the names of the characters. They don't know the history of the
Yeah.
characters. Doctor Strange, who was exceedingly obscure
Yeah.
before the Doctor
Super
Strange movie
unpopular.
came
I
out,
know,
and his
right?
prof.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
like
Yeah.
before his movie came out, and like he was elevated in popularity and stuff like that. If I had walked up to people and asked the question, so what was the story arc where Doctor Strange lost his connection to or lost his role as Sorcerer Supreme, and who was he replaced with? Most people couldn't tell you.
Right.
Right now, they'll tell you that it was the whole what hell, I can't remember myself. It was the Vishanti saga, right? Like when the Vishanti wanted him to fight a war on their behalf, he said no, so they stripped him of the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme. Like, if it's that kind of thing, right? Like when you're talking about a character that obscure, the Marvel name was enough to get people in to go see Doctor Strange.
Mm.
Well, it's a Marvel movie. I know it's gonna be great.
Right.
I know it's gonna
But
be
that
fun.
also
It's gonna be
took
this
them
phenomenal
time,
escape from
right?
reality.
That took them
What?
time to build up, because if you look at the box office in phase one, I think Cap makes like 300 mil. Iron Man made 3, maybe 4. Man of Steel made way more than all of those movies. Man of Steel made like 700 plus, and it was still at the time the biggest game in town. And the Nolan Batman movies, they were on their tail end at that point, but they were making way more money per movie. The difference with Marvel was the trajectory, the fact that it started to uptick, and then they started to have those crossover movies that did big business. And that's when Warner Brothers was like, we just spent 9 years and Nolan gave us 3 movies. And Marvel has Avengers in 4 years. Do you know what I mean? So
Oh yeah,
when
you're
Kevin
100% right.
first started doing his thing, he was working against a lot of what people thought Marvel was, and he had to slowly win them over and then lose them all after Endgame. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, but that's how it plays out, though.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, look at the story of Kanye West. Guy spent a couple decades building up one of the most celebrated hip hop careers, and then he just crashes out over the span of like a year or two
Yeah.
and torches it all. So it's far easier to fall from the top than it is to climb up there,
Yeah, for sure.
right? And
100%. That's
so
facts, bro.
yeah,
That's in
yeah, that's
everything.
facts,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's in anything and everything in life.
Yeah.
And so, sure, right at the moment, right now, right at the time the Thunderbolts came out, if Thunderbolts was a movie that had been made, and this had come out a year or two before Infinity War, it would have been $1 billion, just like that.
You might be
Because the
right. Yeah.
Thunderbolts are names, it's a name people hadn't heard of before.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
was composed of
It would have
characters
been
that
that
people had
Guardians of the
seen but didn't know
Galaxy
a lot about.
energy. Yeah.
Exactly. It would have been the Guardians of the Galaxy energy, and people would have just been like, "This is
Fuck.
really cool and
That's a good
interesting.
point.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go check this out." Yeah, and so and people would have loved it. But at the moment right now, the Marvel name is not enough. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that people feel burned by the brand, but I would go so far as to say that because of the quality of product that they've been releasing, people don't see it in the same light that they used to, and it
Yep.
doesn't quite get the same level of trust that it used to. Now, it's not to say that it cannot be built back up.
Sure.
And Fantastic Four will probably, I mean, I don't know if it'll do pre-Infinity War numbers the way it would have
Yeah,
if it
we'll
had come
see.
out in 2011, 2012, or something like that. But it'll do better than what most all the projects are doing
I
now.
agree.
And if
Yeah,
the
I
movie's
agree.
handled correctly, and if it's done well by Marvel, it'll be a redemption thing. But I mean, when you look at the Thunderbolts roster, right? I mean, let's be frank here, man. Like outside of maybe the Kurt Busiek and Warren Ellis runs,
Hmm.
and maybe Thunderbolts Red, and possibly Dark Reign, when has anybody had a reason to care about Thunderbolts as a team?
Yeah.
No one's really had a reason to care about them.
Well, you know
Nobody was
what's
like, "Oh my god, the Thunderbolts are amazing!" Like it's
Dude, yeah. And you know what's funny about that
yeah,
is like I was telling Chat last week that like the last time I talked to my barber about this, he literally told me that he thought Bucky was like a C-level character. And I was like, "What?" But that just shows you how like comic book people think about this different than normies.
yeah.
Like to the normies, Bucky was just the dude in Steve's movies. Like, you know what I mean? Like they don't even
I
really
mean,
care
in the
about him.
comics, he's a dude. In the comics, okay. Look, I mean, let's be honest here. Bucky in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is way more interesting than he's ever been in the comics.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, let's just call it outside of Ed Brubaker's original Return of the Winter Soldier,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? Ed Brubaker's run. Bucky's never really been relevant. I mean, there was even a line of comics after Original Sin when Marvel made him the man on the wall, and he would just go out and just fight all these threats to Earth,
That shit
and
was
no
cool.
one
Didn't he
cared.
have the Watcher's
It
eyes?
was Dude, yeah, no, I don't think he had the Watcher's eyes, but he
Nick
basically
Fury
played the
did
role that
though.
belonged to Nick Fury. Yeah,
Yeah,
Nick
yeah, yeah.
Fury took the Watcher's
That
eyes,
shit
and
was
that's
cool.
the whole plot of Original Sin.
Yeah.
The man, but that's the thing. The Man on the Wall comic was awesome. It was really, really
Probably
fun.
didn't sell.
I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't like relevant. It wasn't like oh my god, this is going to change everything, But it was a fun comic if you were a fan of Bucky Barnes and just
Mm,
wanted to see him do some weird stuff.
yeah.
But Thunderbolts, I mean, you'll find people who were like super hardcore for the Warren Ellis and the Kurt Busiek and and all those old school runs. But
Yeah.
for 99% of people out there, a lot of the movie going audience, sitting in an IMAX theater when I was watching that movie, and it's like 25% full. Like
Mm,
Thunderbolts is not a massive draw.
yeah.
And then when you turn around and you make this reveal that, well, it's not actually Thunderbolts, guys. They're the new Avengers. It introduces another level of confusion. Well,
Yeah.
are they like, so like they're the official Avengers now? Because there are no other Avengers, right? I mean, when
Yeah.
Marvel launched the new Avengers under Bendis, they reformed the old Avengers team and called it the new Avengers with a different roster. So this
Hmm.
was the definitive Avengers team now. But apparently it's not. But you don't find that out unless you're watching a post-credit scene.
I
So,
know. Yeah.
it's just
Yeah, it's
to the point
tough,
that you're
man.
making. Yeah,
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
it, no, no, no. To the point you're making, like Marvel's in a very like you said this earlier. Marvel's in a very, very tricky and precarious spot.
Yeah.
That Marvel's in this position where they've taken away people's trust of the brand.
Yeah.
They've lost it in a lot of different ways, and specifically with like normies, as you would call it, right? Casual moviegoers, right? They don't trust Marvel the way they used to,
Yeah.
and so they're not really inclined to spend that extra $5 that they may not have to go see a Marvel movie because they know it's going to be a great escape from reality. They're not inclined to do that.
Yeah.
Instead, they're inclined to go see Minecraft,
Yeah.
as you pointed out, with everybody who's under like 25
Oh
apparently
my
loves that movie.
God. I
You
can't
know,
believe this fucking
but
movie
like,
still.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
like they'll
God.
go see that instead.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just rooted in the fact that Marvel doesn't have a clear throughput for where this is all going and what it's all going to look like in some way.
Yeah.
Because I can make videos all day long and talk about Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers and Secret Wars 2015,
Yep.
but there's nothing in the movie line to indicate that's the case.
Yeah.
There's no Black Priest, there's no Sidera Madris, there's no map makers, there's no Ivory Kings,
There's honestly
there's no
barely
mention of Aguma
incursions.
Law.
Like there's
Yeah,
barely incursions.
barely.
Like we don't even
Yeah, and
know.
incursions aren't
Yeah.
even fleshed out.
They're not. They're not fleshed out at all. Yeah. No, I know. It's tough, man. I mean, it's funny because I think there's just and like I said, I have a 22-minute video coming out that like breaks down like everything that happened with Marvel because, this Wall Street Journal article was interesting and there's some new info there, but they leave some stuff out. And it's like, look, a lot of shit happened. Not all of it was their fault. The pandemic was like ridiculous and it delayed everything that they already had going on. So they had like all this new stuff in production and then the 0 projects released in 2020. They're scrambling, they're figuring it out. And so look, obviously it's not all their fault, but ultimately like they're at a place right now, and the whole point I was trying to make with the stream and everything, you look at the Thunderbolts numbers, it's just obvious that like quality is not enough. Now, small caveat, because if the thing pops off next weekend and has incredible legs, then I'm wrong. But I don't think I'm wrong. I think that when you build a cinematic universe, it's very hard when the entire thing goes down to have any one shining example of a thing that stands out and is very popular. Now, Marvel has had that, but if you look at what happened over the past couple of years, it was big characters and big spectacle. Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man No Way Home, to a degree even Guardians, but that's kind of different because like those characters had cachet, and Gunn had built that up over time, and they're Infinity War characters, Endgame characters. But look at the movies that succeeded and then look at the ones that have not. Like, it's pretty obvious that they need to go harder. And I think, look, Fantastic Four is probably not going to be that. It's going to be like its own little thing. Maybe it'll have crazy post-credit scenes. Doomsday is going to be that. Spider-Man 4 is going to be that. And then Secret Wars is going to be that. The question for Marvel is, will X-Men be like that? And because that's the next thing, they're putting a lot of eggs in that basket. That thing is going to film sooner than people think. I think that movie drops in the end of 2027. So if I were Marvel,
I say yes. I think yes. I think if if they don't torch the brand before then,
right? They got to go bigger, right? Like they can't do this.
I think X-Men. X-Men will be huge.
It has to go big. It can't be like let's follow Magic and her little dragon around. Even though you and I would go nuts for that, right? It has to be big, dude. It has to be the team. It has to be Charles. It has to be Apocalypse. It has to be Mr. Sinister. It has to be like fucking big, and it should have Avengers in it too. It should have some of the Avengers and their whole thing with the X. I mean, look at the end of 97. We're getting little shots of Spider-Man, Cap's a part of it. You know what I mean? Like, dude, that is what you do. It has to feel lived in.
Yes, well, that's what makes it so exciting. That's why I haven't given up on Marvel. Like, and I know you haven't. I know you're not saying you have.
Right.
But I'm not really at this place where I'm like, okay, so like obviously Infinity War and Endgame was the swan song. Marvel just hadn't quite realized that everybody left the audience.
Yeah.
But like they're still singing. They just don't know that there's no one there to listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I haven't really reached that point yet because as a comic book fan and as a X-Men guy, like I mean, people tend to forget, man. I've been reading X-Men for almost 30 years at this point. Like I know almost everything there is to know. Like for God's sake, I could teach you about Threnody, the girlfriend of X-Man Nate Gray in the 1990s, and Impact. Right? I mean, she was useless as tits on a boar hog, but still, she was a character who existed, right?
Yeah.
Like the X-Men are infinitely more interesting than the Avengers are.
Yep.
Because there's so much more you can do. The Avengers are reactionary to whatever threat shows up that destroys Earth.
Yeah.
But the Avengers were never really in and of themselves a team that had a particular enemy that they had to contend with. They were very much like the Incredible Hulk in that way, right?
Yeah.
Every once in a while, Wolverine picks a fight with the Hulk, or Thunderbolt Ross decides to start some shit, or something like that.
Mhm.
With the Avengers, it's, well, Thanos has come to Earth, so we have to defeat him.
Yeah.
Whatever, right? With the X-Men, just off the top of my head, you have William Stryker, you have Fabian Cortez, you've got Magneto, obviously, you got Apocalypse, any one of Apocalypse's horsemen, you have Mystique, right? Her Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And depending on how they want to do it, well, then there's your Freedom Force. You've got Emma Frost and her Hellions, which was her answer to Marvel's New Mutants, and then Emma Frost turning over a new leaf and becoming a leader of Generation X. But I mean, you have all these different people
and Magneto
that the X-Men can face off against. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, you have all these different people that the X-Men can face off against in a variety of different ways. Apocalypse, right? So, I mean, depending on what the 10-year plan looks like, Marvel can over the course of this 10-year plan that Kevin Feige said he has for the X-Men, or at the end of this 10-year plan, invoke any number of storylines: Days of Future Past, Days of Future Present, God Loves Man Kills, Age of Apocalypse. There's all kinds of things that they could do here in order to make this whole thing work. Right? Nimrod and the Sentinels and so on and so forth. So I think that's kind of one of the other things that people tend to forget, especially if you're not overly familiar with comics, is that yes, the first 10 years were great because they were leading to Infinity War and Avengers Endgame and the Thanos snap, right? What if every year that an X-Men film was released, every movie felt like Avengers Endgame or Infinity War,
Or
because
Civil
that's just how
War,
high the
and
stakes were.
like,
Or Civil War.
yeah, like
Yeah,
it
like that's
has
how
to
high the stakes
feel,
are.
like things are happening and the characters are being pushed and pulled, and it's crazy. Like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it has to feel big, grand, and connected.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how the X-Men are at every turn. Somebody's trying to kill them,
right.
trying to take them out, not inconvenience them, not destroy all life on Earth,
Yeah.
but trying to wipe out them specifically
As a
all the
species.
time
Yeah.
as an actual species.
And they also have to save a whole bunch of those very people. They have to save a
Yeah,
world that hates them. It's very cool. And I think they've got a lot of juice there. And here's another thing that I'll say that I think is going to work in their favor with the soft reboot. And just from some of the rumors we've heard, they're going after younger actors. And I think they need to lock in those long form contracts, because one of the problems over the past couple of years has been all of the actors that made their way through the Infinity Saga. They're not going to accept less money, right? So we just heard, like, Renner said no to Hawkeye season 2 because they offered him half the money. As well he should. That's fucking
wait,
crazy.
what?
Yeah.
They offered him half the money?
Yeah, half the money. So he's not going to do it. And he shouldn't do it, right? But that goes for the
No.
same for all of these different actors. Hemsworth is not going to take less money, dude. Like, are you kidding me? He's Thor, right?
Mhm.
If you want to have Hemsworth in a movie, you're going to pay Hemsworth money. Same thing with all these other people. So with the X-Men, hopefully they can get incredible talent, lock them up for like 5 years or 9 movie contracts or something ridiculous. Because do you remember that Bucky, Sebastian Stan, they signed him to a 9-film contract. 9
I
films.
remember that, yeah.
So
It was nuts.
dude, they need something like that because they need all the toys at their disposal. They can't play this fucking contract game. You know what I mean? Like, Tom Holland might not be in Doomsday because he's wants whatever. Like, they can't play this game, dude. They need all the pieces and all the toys. And that should be something they ask these actors, because it's like this. Are you going to commit or not? We love you, but if you don't commit, we're going to go with somebody else, because we need to have all the toys. So I'm hoping that. And I think they can do that, Rob. Like, I think they can do that, and maybe that's something he's thinking about. That could be a reason why the past 3 years have felt super light, because of legacy contracts and money and all these different things. That's fine, but you need it to be different for the X-Men run, dude.
Well, that's why I say, I mean, people can call me a show if they want to. I don't much care anymore. But the first X-Men film is going to introduce the team to us. After that, we're off to the races.
Yeah.
And so every X-Men film that comes after that could just be grandiose in scope. X-Men 2 is the attack of Magneto on some grandiose scale,
It has to
bigger
be,
than
yeah, I
what he did
agree.
before.
I agree,
Like, it
man.
could be literally
Like, it
like, I mean,
can't
okay,
be
so
the team solving an emotional trauma. You know what I mean? Like, it has to be big. That's what I feel.
yeah, it has to be big. And I think it has to be something that has the X-Men in some capacity team up with one or more other heroes.
Mm.
Case in point, right? What if they reworked Ultimatum,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, Magneto takes the hammer of Thor because he can control magnetism, and then uses it to just like start wreaking havoc on Earth's electromagnetic poles.
Yeah.
And so it's up to the X-Men teaming up with Thor to take Magneto out. That's your second X-Men movie.
Yep.
Right. I mean, it's different things like that that are all possibilities now, which would be amazing.
And
Right? They make a movie where the X-Men are teaming up with Thor. That would be nuts.
Of course.
Because that's what they should be doing now.
That's what they
focusing
should
on
be doing.
crossovers and team ups.
100% agree.
Yeah.
And hopefully this 10-year plan has those thoughts in it, Because, like, look,
Yeah.
it's weird, man. This Wall Street Journal article is like really trying to get people to think that Thunderbolts is like the first new Marvel movie that like Feige was totally focused on. And like, I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. This movie had a different logo. It had a different vibe. They bring in Schreier and they totally change it. Like, Thunderbolts is actually not unique within the Marvel catalog of the past 4 or 5 years. It all comes from this place of like, we think we can get away with murder. We think we can make Guardians of the Galaxy every time and it'll pop off. And it's like, look, I don't know exactly why it's not working. Like, maybe it's just fatigue, or maybe it's the fatigue they caused, or maybe the audience is just looking for more spectacle. But like, it is obviously not working anymore. And it's just frustrating. Like, Thunderbolts, it feels weird for me as a fan. Even though I like Thunderbolts, it feels weird that that's our movie. And I said this point earlier in the show, but you literally have a bomb in Brave New World, and you're about to have a bomb in Thunderbolts, that's the main cast for the Avengers movie. It's 2 bombs. Do you know what I mean?
I saw your tweet about that.
That's not a great plan.
Yesterday. I was like, Jesus, man, like Josh is coming in guns blazing, man.
A little bit.
My God.
Yeah, but I mean, that is a good point, right? Like, people need to realize, like, brother, that's not the vibe, man. When we were going into Infinity War and Endgame, brother, everything was popping. It felt like we were on the cusp of it all coming together. Ragnarok was this huge, massive movie. Captain Marvel was massive in between them. Like, it all just felt really big, grand, and like we were building to something. This is like, oh, those 2 movies you didn't see, those are the main cast for the next Avengers movies. Like, I honestly just think that's a bad play. Like, you either should have done something to make those movies more spectacle, to get more people to see them, or you should have went in a different direction. Like, this does not feel cohesive, right?
Yeah, I would have kept the Avengers disbanded. Like I would have kept I would not have called the Thunderbolts the new Avengers. Like
Yeah.
if I were the one in charge of running all of this,
Hmm.
I would have been like, no, we're not bringing the Avengers back. And it's like, why? Like it's because that shows how dire the stakes are.
Yeah.
Right. That Captain America's retired, Iron Man's dead. Black Panther, of course, Chadwick Boseman's not with us anymore. So Shuri's a new Black Panther, but
Mhm.
she's got her own problems that she needs to deal with.
Yeah.
That in effect, the entire superhero team is scattered and leaderless and divided.
Yeah.
And because of that, it shows that it makes the entire Earth superhero landscape looks like it's in a complete and total state of disarray. I think that's something that was awesome in Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
When Contessa's addressing the oversight committee,
Yeah, I like
and she's
that.
just
Yeah.
like, there are no Avengers coming to save us anymore.
Yeah.
Right? That nailed it, and it was great.
Yeah.
But that feeling they should have rolled with.
Yeah.
Right?
Man.
Because creating this feeling that the superhero landscape is fractured, right? Then it creates this feeling of, well, who's going to save people if things go sideways?
Yeah.
So then when like the Fantastic Four show up and they show up in this scattered and divided world, then they become the great unifiers.
Mm.
They become the way of saying, okay, well then you guys do this, you guys do that, and we will bring you together.
Mhm.
But they can't necessarily do it on their own. So when you're holding your breath and doom finally arrives, the universe looks like it's an easily conquerable place.
Right.
And it is,
Yeah.
right? Because I still say to this day, Avengers Doomsday is Doctor Doom showing up in the main Marvel Cinematic Universe. And that's when all hell breaks loose.
Right.
Right. That's when everybody just kind of fleeing, trying to get where they, trying to
Yeah.
live.
Now,
right. And they're all split
I-
and brought
I
together.
will
and so on
leave.
and so
I will
forth.
leave on a positive note here because look, I think what you and I are saying is completely valid, but there is one thing that we should bring up that's like to be fair. It is possible that Doomsday is the movie where a lot of the stuff that we are wishing had happened in different movies and shows over the past couple of years, it is actually the place where a lot of that will happen. Now, I don't love that. I don't think that's the way I would have done it, but we should at least be fair and say some of what we're talking about could actually materialize in this movie because the Russos and McFeely.
Imagine
Like,
if
do
we
you know
got
what I mean?
Hydra Cap in America.
That's what I'm
Dude,
saying.
imagine
Yeah.
if Chris Evans comes back as Hydra Cap.
Oh, I think
Right?
he
See,
is.
this is
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, Josh. This is why you got to stay positive, my guy. This is why you got to see the good times, man.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get sunk down into the negativity, right?
You're
But
right. You're right.
don't become trapped in the void, man.
You're right. You know
You gotta
what?
defeat the void, my
You're
guy.
right. And I take it all back, chat. The MCU's back, baby.
No, I mean it's absolutely got its problems, right?
Mhm.
And Thunderbolts highlights some of those problems.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, man, I haven't lost the faith, and
Yeah,
I still love the idea of staying positive and seeing like what the Marvel Cinematic Universe can bring, what kind of stories we can get out of it. Like I would probably give it up. And again, like as a X-Men fan, and if I'm really being arrogant here, the X-Men fan,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, I would
excited to see what that whole plan looks like
I
and what
agree.
can come out of it. Now,
I agree.
don't
And-
misunderstand, Josh. If Kevin Feige fumbles the bag
Ooh.
on the X-Men,
Ooh.
I'm checked out. Like I'm done with
You gotta
Marvel
come
movies.
get into Warhammer with me if he
Forever.
does that. Yeah.
Dude, I will get into Warhammer with you, man. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, dude.
Perfect.
We'll
dude.
go kill Terminids or whatever the hell
Hell
those,
yeah,
those bugs
dude.
are called.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
man.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for calling in. It was a good convo as always. And look, I think you're right.
Yeah, dude.
And I think it's fair to criticize, to speculate, to point this out. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not so different than what comic fans have been doing for like 30, 40 years. There's low points, there's high points. And when it's low, we talk some shit. And when it's high, we get really excited. it's a weird spot to be in with Thunderbolts. I really like the movie. I wish it was doing better, but I think the reason it's not doing better is like Marvel's fault, right? So it's like hard to be in this moment
Sure.
and not acknowledge where we're at. But I am hopeful. I think FF looks great, and hopefully it actually does well. And either way, Doomsday, it really looks like all the eggs are in that basket, and goddamn, they got some good eggs. So I am excited for that. And of course, if they nail those two and X-Men rolls smooth, then we're actually back. Not like fake ass we're back, but like we're actually back. So thanks for coming in here and helping me switch it into a more positive mode. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. I'll catch you later, dude.
All right, brother. Peace. Oh, yeah. All right. Nice little phone call with Rob. Always love talking with him about this kind of stuff. And I think Rob's right. I think, there's a lot to be said for how this could have been differently. And I think we all have our versions and theories. I think it's interesting that there's a lot of overlap between what Rob and I think as far as where was the value, where was the lack of value. Ultimately, it's kind of a moot point because we're where we're at, and I think where we're at will require different thinking. It's like I think Einstein said, the thinking that has got me to this problem will not be sufficient for solving this problem, or something to that effect, where it's like we actually now need different kind of thinking. But Marvel isn't so far gone that we have to throw everything out, and I think there's plenty that we can still put together and fix and hopefully make it much better. And then if it all falls apart, he's going to get into Warhammer. You heard him say it here. Now let me catch up on a couple of these soupies and then we'll get on out of here, guys. Okay, I appreciate you. Let's see here. Long stream today. Marvel is so back. Thank you, Josh Pookie, says Jordan Martinez. Thank you, Jordan. Hunter Boy says, are T-Bolts the Dark Avengers? I think Val is a stand-in for Norman, like in the comics. Now we have two Avengers teams, Val and Norman. Yeah, I think you're onto something there. I think that's what it is, yeah. Thunderbolts is Timu. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 says Lou. Oh, no! C Black says Dune 2 did $80 million opening, ended a $715 million. That's a great point. I do think Dune had higher international numbers. And yeah, it did have legs though. So that's a fair point. Absolutely. Major Bricks says, woke up next to a lady this AM, but it was a Doom bot. That's still good. C Black says, Josh, I bet you Fantastic Four, Doomsday, Spider-Man 4, and Secret Wars make $7 billion at the box office? $500 bet. I'm not going to make the bet, but I'll tell you this. If that is true, I will buy you something, C Black. I don't know what, but I'll buy you something as a memorabilia memories for getting that one right. Because goddamn, $7 billion, that's pretty wild. Bob Iger would be pretty happy about that for sure. Chillin says, we already knew Thunderbolts was going to underperform opening weekend. I'm not hitting the panic button until next week. If necessary, Nerd Vengers for life, take my money. You want to take? Yeah, I think that's fair. It's just that there were, again, I think within the context of all of the marketing effort and everything that Marvel tried to do, I still think it's embarrassing. And I think it shows a problem. That's my whole point. Within a vacuum, maybe you're right. Like, it underperformed. We thought it was going to underperform. But there was a moment where it looked like they were going to be able to overcome that. There was a moment where people thought this thing could get 100 million domestic. And it's 24, 23 under that, which is tough. Bianca, thank you for the gifted membership. By the way, Bianca, I still have to get back to you on Instagram about the trophy. I'm just trying to figure out the whole Rivals tournament thing still. So I'll get back to you about that. But I appreciate you. Thank you guys so much. Any other last minute thoughts, questions, concerns, guys? Long stream today, which is kind of good because we're not streaming tomorrow. So it's good to make that up for you. No stream tomorrow, but we'll be back at it on Wednesday. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we get out of here? What's on your mind? Will there be a future where James Gunn adapts Unity? Not if I have anything to say about it. No. 5-hour stream? No. Not today. Not today, sir. How dare you not have an Andor watch party? Isn't that shit almost done? What's up with the Rivals tourney? We still need to get the stuff filled out for everybody. That's the first step, getting everybody's data. I told everybody I would give them a week in the new season. Can you explain why the Avengers don't exist anymore? I know Cap and Iron Man are gone, but why did it take this long to assemble? I think after Endgame and Cap's disappearance and Iron Man's death, nobody was really there to say, hey, we still want the Avengers. There were groups of Avengers still working together in an unofficial capacity. But like the government comes in and takes all of Tony Stark's stuff, right? We see that playing out with Damage Control and in Spider-Man Far From Home and No Way Home. So I think that's probably the explanation. If some Rivals Pro comes up in here as a Nerdventure and whoops y'all, I'm going to sip tea and bet on the ringer. Yeah, that'd be crazy, huh? Can we have a watch party for painting Warhammer? Yeah, I would like to do a painting stream eventually. Just got a lot going on. But yeah, I mean, I would love to. I haven't painted in like a week. I haven't painted a thing. And it's kind of tough because I really want to. But, you know, life's a little busy, man. You know, 2 kids. And then I got a bunch of kids called the Nerdvengers, you know. We need Star Wars cast. We need X-Men cast. We need DC cast. We need Lara Croft, Zelda. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot out there. It's going to be exciting to see these picks, man. I'm really interested in who they pick for Link. Do you have the lion in your army yet? I do have a custom painted lion in the Deathwing armor, and he's really awesome. And he's really good. But unfortunately, the lion kind of sucks for his points right now in the actual game. So I actually do play him often still, but I usually lose. So I've been building some competitive Dark Angels lists, and he is not on them. I'm hoping in 11th edition, though, he gets completely reworked because Rabute Gilliman got reworked in the middle of 10th, and he's now a fucking beast. So if the lion was reworked, oh, man, I'd love it. I'd love it. Tom Holland, Link, Zendaya, Zelda, Pedro Pascal, Ganon. That's actually not bad. That wouldn't be bad. Remember Dark Angel featuring Jessica Alba? I think so. Was it a show? I think so. They're going to pick Timothy Chalamet. Dude, that would be great. I think it'd be great as Link. Do you miss Jessica? Nope. Nope. New Knights model. I did see that. Does it look cool? Does it look dope? I'm still not over these Space Wolves, man. These Space Wolves look good. Any non-superhero movies that you're looking forward to? Yeah, the next Mission Impossible movie actually looks really cool. I like that movie. You know, what's funny is like, dude, talk about quality not necessarily showing up in the box office numbers. The last Mission Impossible movie was incredible, and it underperformed. I thought Dungeons and Dragons was like one of the most fun movies I've ever seen. I still think it's like one of my go-tos. It bombed in the box office. So quality doesn't always mean box office, and then it goes the other way too, right? You look at Super Mario movie, it's all right, but it's not like super quality. It makes a shit ton of money. I haven't seen Minecraft, but I'm absolutely certain it is slop. And it's going to make $1 billion. So these are not always the same thing. But here's the thing, like, and I know like some of you don't get it. And some of you get mad when I talk about business and stuff. And you're like, but you love the movie and I like the movie. Why can't we just like talk about loving the movie or whatever? But to me, the story, the narratives, the social proof, all this stuff like really, really matters, man. It's a big deal. It's a big part of it. Making successful commercial art is a talent. It's not a random fucking thing. If you can make commercially viable, big IP, and you can make it successful in 4 quadrants, that's a skill. That's why you get paid $1 bajillion. Like, You should be paid for having that talent because that is rare. It is hard to pull that off. That's why Kevin Feige is the greatest producer of all time, because he had a 10-year run averaging $1 billion by the time it was all said and done. Like, that's crazy, right? So to do that is a skill, and perhaps a diminishing skill, or perhaps a skill that it gets more and more difficult as you have that success. I'm not really sure, but like, that you need to be able to do that. And if you can't do it, you shouldn't be making those movies. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what I am saying? What is up with the Thunderbolts hate? I saw this Sunday at a packed theater. People loved it. Blah, blah, blah. This movie should have great legs, bro. I hope it does. I hope it does. I really enjoyed the movie, too. But the numbers are bad. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so far, so bad. Why is there barely any action in Marvel movies anymore? What have you heard? I actually haven't heard too much about that. I don't really know. I don't know that I've ever even looked into that exact question. It's a little reassuring that they are at least trying to have a data point by surveying people out of the movie. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, they're very curious. I don't think that this is a situation where you throw everything out, because clearly there were things that worked. Like, for instance, I would take this team and just put them on a project with bigger characters. Like, Jake Schreier did great with these characters. You think he wouldn't be able to do good with Spider-Man or X-Men? Right? And in fact, if you had thrown a couple more A-listers into this film, it probably would have done much better and still been very good. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the solution. And don't throw it all out. Take some of the wins here, but like, make no mistake, dude, this is not going well right now. You know? So, all right, everybody. I'm going to get on out of here. Hey, man, appreciate y'all. Nice, girthy, lengthy stream today. Over 3 hours. Appreciate you. No show tomorrow. We'll be back at it on Wednesday. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day. And I'll see you in the next video. Is everybody gone? Did everybody leave? Leave, 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 leave. You know, chat, you guys were being pretty negative today. You know what I mean? But I understand. And so I was really chill about it and just brought up a ton of positive things. And, you know, I got Rob on here to help deal with all of your negativity, you know? And so Rob and I gushing, talking about how things are going to be good, being positive. I know, it's crazy. I can't believe you guys were so negative. But, hey, it's all good. I forgive you and I understand. You know, you are fans. You have been watching this stuff a lot. You have every right to be frustrated, fatigued, and a little upset. But let's just, you know, let's keep it chill, baby. Let's keep it chill. Oh, it's a good Monday, man. I'm feeling good. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate Rob. I appreciate Kevin Feige. You know, I hope he understands. I'm sure he fucking hates my ass. You know what I mean? I'm constantly spoiling his shit. Very critical. But I love this dude, man. I just want greatness again. That's all. Is that too much to ask for? Constant greatness? I mean, you're the one that set it up for me. All right, everybody. Much love. Like I said, no show tomorrow. Video either today or tomorrow morning. Going to work on some other cool content. We'll be back at it Wednesday and Wednesday night. We'll play some Rivals with the community. Who knows? Maybe we'll practice for the tournament. That could be fun. Anyways, do me a favor. Open up that third eye. And wash out that stinky butthole. All right.